Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Cork.
Hey!
Kyle Hilliard.
Oh, he's picking up the mic.
Hot Tamale. We have a great show. One of the best shows here. We're talking about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. What's better than this? Just Nintendo guys being dudes. Just Cause 4 with Jeff Marchiafava. Early impressions of that. He also wants to talk about a game called Mutant Year Zero. So we'll talk about that, despite our fervent wishes not to. And then talking about some big news with Epic. Them launching their own store to compete with Steam. Look, a little dry of a topic, but we'll have fun with it, damn it. And then community emails, then back after the show, we have in studio, so it sounds perfect, Kris Piotrowski from Capybara Games talking about Below. Below's back, everybody. Below's back in town.
The sequel?
Coming out.
He does talk about a sequel in that interview a little bit and how he'd be up for making one.
Did you kick him right out of the chair?
Yeah, get the hell
How
out of
dare you?
But it's interesting because Below, obviously, it's been in development for like 6 years. I feel like we've been talking about
Announced
it.
in 2013.
Yeah, Leo was a fetus, I believe, when they first announced Below. But we talk about like what it's like to work on a game for so long, how that feels, how it feels to get it out the door. It's kind of it's more of a psychological interview. You were switching in the booth, Kyle, so
Yeah.
more of a psychological interview than you'd expect. It's a lot about his feelings and what it's like to work on that.
It's been an emotional process for Kris to work on a single dark game for 6 years.
I thought for a second, I'm like, I think I can make this sucker cry. I didn't make him cry, but it was a very insightful interview and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's
So
good.
Kris is a sucker. Establish that.
Thanks to Andy McNamara for hosting the show last week while I was away.
Interestingly enough, how long was that episode?
3 hours.
Who likes to complain about the length of the podcast?
He
just
mentions
ask
that
questions.
no one comments on the show more than Andy hosting the show. Like, as it's going on, it's just a constant commentary on what's happening with the exact podcast you're listening to, which is very unnerving if you're a listener. But it's a lot of fun. I always get stressed out about like, am I gonna feel weird listening to this? But the second it was live, I dove in. I think it's so much fun to listen to.
Did you feel weird listening to it?
A couple times because I was screaming. Andy, the word you're looking for is community emails. Say community.
What did he call him?
He's like, oh, we got some reader mail, viewer mail, and then he just put his head on his desk.
Talking about Telltale?
Yeah, exactly. Good times. Also, as a follow-up for last week, a lot of talk about Game of the Year, awards, how we're structuring things at Game Informer. After all that debate, Andy read thousands of comments. The conclusion was, Jeff Cork?
Yeah, it's all the same. Nothing's changing.
Well, we're seeing. So right now we're still doing the 50. Only new games or games from this year. And then it's like, it's probably going to be some fusion of like what Reiner was talking about with some other ideas of like maybe expanding the games as service thing. But
Fusion, it sounds like a lot of confusion.
no kidding. We are doing the Game of the Year discussions right now. How have those been going, Kyle?
It's a weird year because there's a lot of good games that everyone likes the same. I feel like last year, you know what I mean? Because like last year there were camps, right?
Yes.
This year I don't feel like there are camps. I feel like we all are happy, like equally happy. There's a couple games that I would be totally happy with being our game of the year.
100%. But the weird thing is like we've had a lot of talks, but it's been a lot of like 10 characters, 10 moments, successes, headlines, like those types of categories, which are really fun to go through. But
Dancing around the big
it is
thing.
dancing around this megaton, which is God of War versus Red Dead.
Which is great because at this point, there's very little resentment.
Yes.
Because everyone is just like collectively working together to get these lists done.
Right.
Because we're under some obligation to do so. I don't know why. But
we'll talk about it on an
readers.
upcoming episode and exactly where we land on all this stuff because I think it's very fun to go through. It's amazing the people that have been here for so long, like their attitudes during those meetings, and like some of them are more argumentative than you'd expect or less. But Reiner really cracked me up yesterday with a couple moments, and I can't wait to talk about it on the podcast in the future. We got a lot of just setting up shop here before we get to the meat of this show because also, real quick, Artifact, Valve's game, Dan Tack, the review should be on the site now, Game Informer, but he likes it. Storio likes it a lot as well. I understand there's a lot of debate out there about the monetization and stuff, but I recommend that you read Dan's review.
well, those guys are loaded, so
That's
that
true.
kind of thing doesn't bother them.
Also, this podcast went live on Thursday afternoon, so we haven't seen the Game Awards yet. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting announcements that we'll definitely talk about next week. But also, if you're listening to this or watching this super early, Leo and Vader, I believe, we're gonna live stream our like reactions towards the awards, right?
That's right. My brother Vader will be there.
Yes, we look forward to that. So if you want to see, some reactions or commentary about what they announced at the very exciting Game Awards, which I'm very excited about, just find that archive on YouTube.
You've really set yourself up, but you had that tweet where you said,
Yeah.
why are people so snarky? This is just like It's a great thing. I look forward to it. So you have to
Absolutely.
stay positive throughout the
I
entire
will stay
thing.
positive. Even the darkest year, what was maybe like 2011, where it's just like they're eating cupcakes off the assembly line. All of those, Spike TV awards back when it was on Spike. I defend it every year as something fun to watch.
Where else are you going to see Neil Patrick Harris fire a machine gun during a musical number where the sound effects don't work, and he looks at it? You can just tell he's like, oh, God.
That really... we should talk. Was it 2010?
Yeah.
I believe it was. Like, that was...
Oh, interesting
Look,
that you started your defense line at 2011.
But look, that one was bad because it's Neil Patrick Harris like getting out doing a song and dance, and he's like, "This is dumb. This is video games. Let me get an AK-47 and shoot everybody on stage." And that was like the big rah moment. Like,
What's the opposite of tone deaf? Because that's what that was.
it is insane. Also, the last thing before we get to the meat of this sucker, before we just dive into this filet mignon that is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, is Rage 2. Leo Vader in the booth.
Yes?
That's our new cover story. We revealed it this week. We're going to be diving in next week, talking all about your trip. Because where did you go for that sucker?
To Stockholm, Sweden.
Oh my gosh.
Beautiful, overcast Stockholm. It was
Now,
great.
Leo, I think a certain percentage of the audience out there, even like a certain percentage of the audience within my own head, might be skeptical about this Rage 2 game and why we should give an S. Do you have a summary?
It's an open world Bulletstorm.
Yeah, and that's a very good thing in your mind?
Yes, I'm really excited for it. It was super fun to play. I got to play for a couple hours when we were out there.
Oh, great. Okay, so next week with JV and Reeves, hopefully we'll talk all about it. Until then, please leave your mic off.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah.
Jeff Cork,
It's
you've
fine.
been playing it. Shut up, you idiot. You've been playing it for a while, but do you have any qualifiers out of the gate?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say that, I think review embargo for that is
Is
today morning.
Right? Yeah.
But there are some caveats there. Like, I'm not going to have the review ready for that because
Yeah.
I'm still playing through the World of Light kind of campaign as of now. But also, there's online is not switched on.
Right.
And there's also supposedly a day one patch that I don't know what that addresses. Presumably gets rid of the feather in Mr. Game & Watch's pose.
Right. So enjoy the feather while you can if you're a weirdo.
If you're a weirdo. So yeah, I can't review it now because I can't check out online.
Right. So these are very early thoughts. You're still
Yes.
working your way through it. But what do you think so far?
Game is fun. I really like it. It's a celebration of Smash Brothers, which I guess is what everyone was expecting, and I can say definitively, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, I don't mean to tilt your review. So the last one for Wii U gave it 9.5, I believe.
Yeah?
Would you say your enjoyment of this game is about on that level you had with the last go-around?
I would say it's very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some things I'm still kind of grappling with. There's so many characters to unlock.
Yeah.
And I think in the past it kind of I had more fun doing so. This time it you have a very limited roster from the beginning, very limited. And there's just so much to unlock, and there's so much I was looking forward to seeing and playing as, you know what I mean? And then I just wanted it all now.
Yeah.
Especially because when you first start the game, you have access to every stage. So you're just like,
Really?
Here we go. And it's just almost 100 different stages. You're like, all right, it's on. I'm going to pick this PictoChat one. This looks fun. And then you get to the character selection. You're like, all right, which of you 8 is going to go to one of these 100 levels?
Because you brought up the very likely scenario I think a lot of people are going to have this weekend of new Smash Brothers out.
Yes.
Gather the friends around. Come on
Yes.
over. Let's get some beers. Let's have a good time. And then you'll get there and realize, oh no, I have Kirby and boring Link to choose from here.
Yeah, exactly. That's always been a part of the Smash Brothers series, to be very clear. Just something about it this time just kind of was like, we're doing this again, you know?
Maybe because it feels so similar to the Wii U version?
That aspect of it, for sure.
You said when the unlocks appear, they also seem tougher, you said?
They do. It's very strange. There have been times where in the past where it's the new foe appears and then, the siren and all stuff. Very satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
And
Very
that comes in and then you just beat that thing's ass into the ground and then you unlock that character and it's super great. This time, there were times where I would lose them and I'm just like, well, I guess I don't have Bowser now.
And it's not like the next fight they'd pop up again, which is what I think they did in the past.
That's what they did in the past, right? This time it's it just goes through the next one. And a little message happens the first time. It's like, hey, don't worry, you'll get another shot at it. But
you worry.
I worry. I think it's gone. I think it's gone forever.
Okay, so you're unlocking characters, music.
But you can also unlock that in the World of Light mode too, which is where I've been spending the bulk of my time.
Okay.
And that's super fun.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is like the weird isometric map thing where you're running around as a character.
Yeah. And then like I don't know how much people have been following this. I had to be completely honest. It was something that I kind of like picked up through osmosis, but I have not breathlessly been following every detail about Smash Brothers because I'm looking forward to playing it. But it basically what it is like you saw that weird trailer where it's kind of like their Infinity War where everyone dies or whatever. Spoiler alert. So you're restoring the world, and there's you have all these playable characters, but you also have these souls, which are basically there's kind of like a collection element where you as you work through this campaign. You have like a primary soul that has some abilities and slots, and then you fill that with support souls that give you other
Spirits?
things. Spirits. I'm sorry, I'm saying souls.
That's fine.
You know how it is. But yeah, it's super fun. But like they'll have things like a level might be like, hey, this one's kind of like inspired by Goron, so you can unlock a Goron if you beat it. There's not a Goron that you can fight, so instead it's like a tan Donkey Kong. They adjust the rules to kind of fit thematically or like.
I love that.
It's super great.
But they don't stretch. They don't like. There's not new programming in those, right? Like they're just changing color schemes.
No, they're going into the rule sets. Like, oh yeah, the floor on this one will make you fall asleep and everything. But you can get spirits that will like negate effects and everything. So over time, you're becoming way more powerful. So you can just like have a loadout that just like counteracts whatever weird things are happening.
Are you more into it than you expected, just on a weird RPG level of like swapping out those spirits?
There's also like this big ass skill tree that you're filling out. So I'm playing primarily as Ness because he's delightfully broken the way that I've got him built out, where it's like now when I get final smashes very quickly, and then I can also do 2 in a row. So you basically just annihilate everyone with like this big siren that comes everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot of like, it's way longer than I thought it was going to be. And like, I thought when I beat what presumably was a boss that was that. And it's like, oh no, there's more. So.
Wow. It reminds me of Subspace Emissary where it's like, oh, longer than you remember. It really goes on for a long time. But
it's actually good.
Okay, great.
I enjoyed Subspace Emissary for what it was, but this seems like it's kind of the first time that the Smash Brothers, like a single player, not just going through fighter after fighter, kind of, it's doing something successfully, I think.
And it's not comparable to Subspace in the sense that there's like stages, right? Like these are fights.
These are fights.
Right? Okay.
And no cutscenes or anything.
I've seen one.
The intro one that we've already seen, or beyond that?
No, beyond that.
Oh,
yeah.
Is it like on that quality?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
not that long, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited about that. And so, like the loadout, that's just in that mode, or can you actually?
You can also import that if you want, like a rule set into the main brawl mode. You can have that where, like, if you're just fighting, you can have souls. So you can have like weird loadouts and everything there.
Yeah.
The one of the coolest things that I really like is that you're able to come up with your custom rule sets and surface them to the menu. So it's not just like defaulting to timed battles when inevitably all sane people switch to stock.
I know.
Yes.
Now you can be like, okay, I like stock. I like these rules, blah, 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 blah. So like if you want to do like, I want only Pokeballs to be like high frequency and I want stock, but 99 lives or whatever, you can set that up.
Only way to play Smash, yeah.
Name it, Pokemania or something stupid like that. And then you can just have it right on the menu and then hit that.
I love that.
It's great. And you can also have things like where you have a meter that builds up and that's how you get your final Smash over time, as opposed to the Smash Balls coming in.
Oh,
so there's like
really?
some weird wrinkles there. There's like a
That's
decoy
interesting.
Smash Ball that will fall in, and if you break it, it does like that X bomb that shoots the fire.
That's so sweet. I feel like what I love about this game, from the little I've seen and played so far, is, when the Wii U and 3DS version, mainly the Wii U version, came out, I think we all felt like this is as good as Smash can get. Mm-hmm. This is everything we want. They really perfected all the systems, everything you want in this thing, all the customization options with all the music selectors and sliders, everything you could ever want. And then with this, it's like they've refined on perfection for Smash even further. Of just, here's some more options, here's some more streamlining, here's just cleaning all this stuff up, but also giving you more options at the same time. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And you can still unlock, because like you're going through World of Light mainly to unlock characters, but if you just stick to multiplayer matches,
there are a bunch of different ways
throw
you can
guys
unlock
at you.
characters. It'll throw guys at you.
Okay.
There is kind of a cooldown, so you can't just... There's a really... a grindy way that involves like restarting the system and all this other stuff. It just seems like... At that point, it's like work.
Wait, what do you mean?
For unlocking characters, because it is on like, I believe, like a 10-minute cooldown. So you can't just like set matches for... 300% damage, 1 life, 1 whatever. And
to just get through multiplayer matches
right.
back to back to back.
Right.
But it resets every time you turn on the system.
Every
again?
time you unlock a character, I believe that you've got like 10 minutes before the next one will pop up. And then people are closing the game, restarting the game. And it's like, I'm not going to just do that.
Yeah. But which character are you really gunning for? Who do you want to play as the most?
Who do I want to play as the most? I think I've got most of the ones that I really was looking forward to. Like
King K. Rool.
King K. Rool, I got Villager, and Ness. I like those. I'm very basic.
I was excited to play as Isabel today, and we talked about it on a couple weeks ago. But she is more different than Villager than I expected. Like her B over is like it's like a fishing pole, and I'm still trying to get the hang of. It's like a weird. It has like the physics of like Sheik's whip, where it's just like kind of dangling out there, and you can just slowly reel him back up. It's better than fishing in Red Dead, I think, is the one conclusion.
Yeah,
she seems very fun though. I like her a lot so far. Any other standouts of the newcomers?
Like nothing has really like stood out a whole bunch. I mean, like every time a new like Xenogears / Fire Emblem character pops up, I'm like, here's another one of these guys.
How dare you? That's an attack on Shulk's good name, sir.
Yeah.
It's fun too, just on the stages to see those levels that were only in the 3DS version, just in HD. Seeing the Spirit Tracks level, stuff like that, which I think was probably my favorite from the 3DS version.
What were some of the other? Do you remember the Spirit Tracks ones? Always stands out, but is there any
Nintendo
3DS exclusive ones?
Was Nintendo's exclusive?
Yeah.
There's the Pictochat one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been in Wii U. Yeah.
And it's not all the stages, right? You haven't unlocked any stages.
I have not unlocked any stages.
That's weird.
I am. See, if I say I'm certain, someone will be like, "No, it's here, you idiot."
Yeah.
Poke Floats does not appear to be in there, which is a real bummer.
Devastating.
Devastating.
Clearly the
loss.
dumbest level from Smash's history. It deserves to come back.
Yeah.
At this point,
I wonder if he just hates it. Like, I wonder if he just dislikes it. Sakurai just hates that level.
In fact,
why would he hate it?
For posting the review, just get rid of the word ultimate in there because it doesn't have Poke Floats. Like, at that point, what is this
I'm
that
just
we're
going
even
to call
dealing
it Super Smash Brothers Alternate.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
So review on the site sometime soon.
Eventually. I'll get there.
GameInformer.com.
It's a big game.
A lot of fun.
It's very good.
Kyle, you going to play it this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
What's your strategy?
World of Light, I think. Well, is that what you're asking me? Like, how am I going to unlock everybody?
Or how are you going to enjoy the game?
World of Light.
Just playing through it solo?
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Can you play World of Light co-op?
No. You can play through the like the regular. I'm fighting all these guys on a tier to fight the boss.
Yeah.
With a co-op buddy. That's fun.
Okay, that does sound great.
And you're playing mostly GameCube controller, right? That's
almost exclusively.
Almost exclusively. Okay, yeah. It occurred to me that the Switch dock only has 2 USB ports. So if you want to do 8-player, which is rare, I realize, but if you want 8-player, 8 GameCube controllers, you also need like a USB hub,
right?
Which is kind of annoying.
Yeah. But if you have that exact problem out there, please write into podcastgameinformer.com because you're the type of fan we want on this show. Like, I can't use my 8 GameCube controllers. Come on.
That's the way to play, though. Really.
Oh yeah.
Like just playing on the system itself, like in portable mode. I find like the rubberized thumbsticks. I feel like I'm gonna rip the skin off of them. Maybe I'm gun shy from all the DualShock. Like, every one of those is just this tattered nub.
Well, you've made a couple of good skin lamps out of those, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Cool rings.
What I worry about is playing a lot on the GameCube when I'm on the TV, and then when I have it on the go, that problem when I jump from like a GameCube controller to when I would play with like the Wii U Pro controller, where suddenly like the X and Y are different. Like I worry about that. I'm trying to wrap my brain around that for switching back and forth.
As long as you make it clear that that's what's happening to the person who's your game after game after game, like I'm just used to a different controller, it'll be all right.
Okay, great. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, nothing better. Kyle, anything else you want to say?
I'm excited for that game. I played a little bit with Cork. I had a good time, but it's what I expected.
Have you been playing anything else recently?
Beat Saber.
Oh yeah, do you have a score on that sucker?
Yes. I gave it a 9.
Oh,
very
fantastic.
good. I love that game.
Same score as Astrobot, but you say you like Beat Saber more.
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe.
Poking holes in his
You can
logic?
read both the reviews and see where the certain, there's meters that you have to turn up and down.
Okay, so the PSVR version of Beat Saber, it's solid, but I feel like getting on PC is going to be the way to go because you can get those mods where you can like get different songs in there.
The mods are a big deal because like there's a lot of fans making songs and there's some good ones in there. There's some very bad ones in there too. But the PSVR currently, this stuff will come to the Oculus and Vive versions later. There's like a campaign. There's like 5 more songs.
Okay.
And this is like a really weird, maybe stupid thing, but the motion controllers are shaped more like actual Star Wars lightsabers.
Oh boy.
Than like the Oculus Touch controllers.
Yeah.
So it's like 5% more feels like you're holding lightsabers on PlayStation.
And that's how game reviews happen,
There
everybody.
we go.
Very good.
But if you have PSVR, Beat Saber and Astrobot are like must-haves. Like,
Yes.
absolutely.
Absolutely. That's great. Do you want to clap out of here, buddy? Here we go.
Oh,
Chef Marchiafava, sincere as
does
ever.
anyone still do that anymore, or is it just me?
I think like the
Who, like,
idea of
plays into it?
teleporting with the claps is pretty subdued at this point in the podcast.
All
It's
right.
been years. The magic is gone, Jeff. But I do like it when people on YouTube every once in a while are like, "What?" And every once in a while, people are still shocked by it,
Nice.
but we still love it. It is magical. Just Cause 4.
Yeah.
Very, very, very early takes, correct?
Yeah, I'm about 20% in. according to the
okay.
thing.
All right. So not as early as I thought. Leo, how much have you played?
Like 4 hours.
Okay, great. I played about an hour last night. Jeff Cork, you are a Just Cause 3 expert. Didn't you review Just Cause 3?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I played Just Cause 4 too for about an hour, maybe.
There we go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What do you think, Jeff?
I am liking it. I don't think it makes a great first impression.
Oh, interesting.
At least
Because you get Metroided out of the gate, or what?
No. What platform is everyone playing on?
Steam.
Steam.
Would you play on, Cork?
It was at an event.
Okay. I've been playing on Xbox One X. So you'd figure it's the best shot that it's going to have at hardware.
Wait a minute.
Where there's
Sirens
an
are
alien
going
invasion going on.
off. It's not Wednesday. Tim Schafer joke.
But yeah, I would like to hear your guys' thoughts because the cutscenes are not great.
Just the look of them?
Yes.
I didn't know if something was wrong with my PC settings because the lighting is abysmal. It's just like, you know, that issue that's in almost every video game cutscene that we all just kind of overlook, where the lighting and the shadows are just kind of like flickering all over. It's that combined with like weirdness of the eyes and the colors. Every cutscene throws me off as well.
Yeah, so I think Rico's eyes are supposed to glow because he has like AR implants in his eyes.
All right.
I think they're going for that style, but the character model, like that game is not built for cutscenes is my takeaway. Like the
Right.
engine must not be because they
I'd argue Just
are not
Cause
looking.
has never been or should not be built for story in general.
Yes. Yeah, correct. But then there are also I'm also getting a lot of frame rate issues in the cutscenes.
Oh,
Mostly
really?
just the cutscenes and also like textures not loading in at the highest resolution, and that also seems to be mostly in the cutscenes. So I don't know
That's
what's
so
going
odd.
on with that, but it's not a great first impression. First with that intro, and then it throws you into all these systems that it doesn't explain super well.
Okay. Just on the technical front, I know Just Cause 3, a lot of people were critical because it was pretty janky
Yeah.
when it launched. And they're like, big messaging for this team this time around is like, hey, everybody, new engine. Was it the Apex engine, I believe they called it, something like that. But it has to just be like a little bit of an evolution of the last engine. Because am I nuts, Leo? It feels a lot like Just Cause 3.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it, but it runs a ton better.
Yeah.
On PC, I had a ton of issues with Just Cause 3, and Just Cause 4 has not dropped frames at all for me.
Oh, great. I had it crash once on me last night, but that's about it. Okay, but after that rocky hump,
Yes.
Got the cutscenes out of the way. This Just Cause 4
Yes,
discussion.
and I would say it is a little jankier than I expected going in.
Yeah.
I haven't had really frame rate issues on Xbox, but there will be weird physics stuff all the time, which at this point the game is basically just Gary's mod, I think.
yeah.
yeah.
Like they really want you to just play around with the physics and setting up, jets and air balloons and all that kind of stuff. And so once you get into that and kind of figure that out and figure out the structure for unlocking things, I've really been enjoying it.
Wow, and just make the sirens go off left and right
Yep.
in the game as you parade around. Oh, what do you mean system of unlocking things?
Like unlocking the different abilities for your grappling hook and then how you actually customize them with mods.
Yeah.
There's kind of there are basically 3 quest givers that you have that will give you ones that are kind of directed towards each of the different systems, the balloon, the jets, and then the retracting kind of normal tether thing that's going on. And they all kind of have their own requirements to get to the next mission for them.
Gotcha. Leo, what do you think of this thing so far?
I think we're burying the lead a little bit. It's
Please.
obscenely fun to play.
Sure.
The new gadgets are just such a great addition to the open world sandbox of being able to put boosters on things, just make a vehicle out of everything, putting 4 balloons on a tank and then putting jet boosters on the back of it. It's super. I found it really easy to learn those systems and how to mod them. And building my own little creations happens really fast and intuitively with different loadouts for different types of. The balloon will go super high up, or it'll just hover low, or it'll follow me or not.
Are you doing that to help with missions, or is it just dicking around for the sake of dicking around?
Both.
Okay,
There are
really?
lots of times where it'll be just escape the wanted level without leaving the car, and you can decide to put balloons on it or whatever to make it more fun. Or destroy this thing, we're not specifying how, and you can just make it more fun by doing it that way. But you can also just shoot everything, and that's probably going to be fine.
Right.
You,
If you wanna
you
take the boring
super don't
approach.
need to use those extra things, but I have
That's
used.
the point of the game, though.
I have used them in like there are like kind of speed challenges all over. And I was trying to do one where you had to drive a boat, like over 50 knots through, off this waterfall or whatever. And just I could not find a boat that was fast enough. And I was like, okay, I'll just put 5 rockets on the end of it, and as I was driving towards it, I hit them, and I just soared into the air and went through the check mark and got it, but then just started spinning around violently and, parachute off as it explodes. And those are the kind of moments that, that happens every 5 minutes. And I continually had a smile on my face and was
good.
chuckling to myself of just like, that's insane, and that's the kind of thing that only happens in the Just Cause series.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And playing a little bit just at the start, you just think about all the weapons kind of feel light and floaty. Nothing really has impact, but you realize that's not what you're coming to Just Cause for here, everybody. You just want to create the mayhem. But at the same time, do you feel like they encourage it enough? Do they emphasize story a little bit too much? Or is it... Also playing last night, I had that thought of maybe you need that. This is like the Just Cause ingredients, right? You need to have a story that they take a little more seriously than they should.
That the island is in peril, you need to believe that.
Do you believe that in your heart of hearts, Leo? Do you believe that?
No, the story has been a non-issue for me so far, a non-factor.
But do you think it helps? Because if it was just game on, we're completely self-aware, we're just being silly, we're not taking anything seriously here, I feel like it would lose a little bit of that charm. You need to also be making fun of the game a little bit, almost by how much you're breaking it continuously.
I would like to see them try to be goofier.
Yeah.
At this point, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some cutscenes that they're trying to do character building or relationship building or whatever, and it just kind of slows things down to a point where it's
literally with
all
the
right,
frame rate.
I get it, you're trying. Yes, I guess that too. But I would say they are trying to make the story or story missions a little more important. Like in the last game, you basically liberated an island mostly just by blowing up anything that was colored red. And you still do that, but that's kind of secondary to doing these specific missions. And so if you're going to unlock the area that has this robot drone facility, you go in and there's a specific mission that you do for that, and then once you do that, your army of chaos, which is like the guerrillas that are fighting against them, they have the drone facility at that point, and they will use drones. And then there was another mission that went off that where I was trying to teach them how to use drones. And so there is more mission variety to it. But then, anywhere you go, it's also that giant gas balloon structure is painted red, so I'm going to blow that up too.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah, take it away, sir.
When you open up a mini map or the big map in an open world game, is there a shutter that just you involuntarily can't control yourself every time you see a checkered flag icon? I don't understand who developers must really unlockable concept art. Okay, whatever. But also racing challenges in open world games. I never have fun in those. I will do them if it's if you do enough of these, you unlock a rocket launcher or something. They're always just a miserable slog through a bunch of half circles superimposed over the road.
I
They're
think the
always
secret
terrible.
The secret is that they're pretty cheap to produce, right? Because you don't need to make too many custom things. Just hey, go from this point to this point. Here we go.
Oh, I hate them so
So
much.
I've only had to do one of those.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an actual race against another person.
Yeah.
It was just kind of drive through a couple of these rings. Most of them there's just one ring and you have to go through it at a certain speed. and I've actually enjoyed some of those. They're not bad,
no.
and all of these they're all kind of labeled as like stunt missions.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you have to do them. I haven't been forced to do them yet.
But you're like,
point.
if it's like Just Cause 3, you were strongly encouraged to do so because you get a lot of mods.
You're less
for
encouraged
things.
than in Just Cause 3, which
Okay.
I really appreciate about
Excellent.
this game.
Yeah, and like the different mods that you can unlock for each type of tether that you're doing, I don't know that they're all that important.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a completionist and you absolutely want to play with every option on one of those, you can do them, but some of them it's like, okay, you can change the tether length to be shorter or longer. And it's like, well, I always just want two things to immediately snap into each other and blow up. So you probably don't have to do them all. But I'm like I said, I'm only 20%. So I'm still, my big questions are, am I going to be forced to start doing those at some point? And will the kind of mission, like the main missions that unlock the different regions, are those going to start getting repetitive or not?
And is it
Because
a
so
big-
far they haven't been, and
Like-
I appreciate that.
When I played the game, it was a very controlled demo. I'm wondering, like the open world, is there a ton of activity? Like, is it just like a Ubisoft style? Looks like someone's just throwing a handful of change at this map. Be like, here you go.
There seems to be plenty of people. I mean, most of the time, if you're going into an area, it's controlled by the bad guys or the good guys, and it's usually under siege by the other side. So there seems to always be a ton of tanks. When you're in missions and they're sending waves of enemies at you, it's like, I mean, you blow up like 100 cars in every mission.
Yeah.
You know, and so it seems like you're not rolling into ghost towns.
Okay.
You know?
But I mean, like, there's a ton of like side activities. Like, is it do you feel overwhelmed in it? Like, I know, like in Forza Horizon 4, I think it was just like
They
you
never
unlock
stop.
you do a race, which in that game I like doing races because go figure, that's what they're like setting out to do, is making a racing game, and it's good. But you complete one and then it's like, hey, you did it. Here's 3 more of these things, and you just feel like you're just constantly like stomping out these little fires.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far it hasn't felt too overwhelming. There's
Okay.
usually like 2 or 3 things in one of the larger districts
Okay.
that you can go after. It doesn't seem too bad. And Leo, I wanted to get your opinion on the driving, because most of the time I also don't give a crap about driving cars in open world games, because they usually don't feel good compared
Right.
to normal racing games. But I have enjoyed some of the cars in this one. Like, it feels like they got the driving to a very good place.
And they're really fast.
Yes,
There's good
they're
incentive
super
to
fast.
use them instead of just wingsuiting everywhere, because it can be faster.
Huh.
And I think they're super fun, yeah.
Leo, what are the odds this game's going to crack your top 10?
Pretty good at this point.
Wow,
I've
really?
been having a ton of fun with it. I was meant to go to bed last night, and then I finished the last mission I was going to do, and then I saw a satellite dish, and then I just dicked around with it for an hour. Like, I tried to make it fly to my next objective, and then I ended up just tearing it off the roof and sliding down a mountain on it.
It's just,
And then it exploded at the bottom. Hold on.
Oh.
And I just got on a piece of debris and used a grapple yank on the debris to the ground to just fling myself forward, and I was just surfing on this piece of debris down the highway, and it worked incredibly well.
It's like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts meets a superhero game. Like, that is Just Cause 4 at this point.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense.
Can we get another Nuts and Bolts game?
Yeah.
Actually, let's check. No.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, thank you.
Also, I was looking it up because like, oh, it has a different director. He was on the show last week with Ben Reeves' interview. Then Just Cause 3. Turns out Just Cause 3's director left Avalanche New York. Avalanche, same studio technically as our new cover story, Rage 2, just for the full family here. But Avalanche New York, he left in 2016, and now he's like, I think he's directing Lords of the Fallen 2, like that Dark Souls style game. Just bizarre. But Avalanche New York, I hope they keep going.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're enjoying the game, and I hope
Yeah.
that they can stick around and keep a strong developer in New York there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I still, I mean, like I said, it is still a little janky, and so
yeah.
I'm wondering, hopefully it doesn't get worse as I continue on.
Yeah. All right. Look for the review maybe next week on GameInformer.com.
Yeah, probably.
There we go. But a review that's up right now is Mutant Year Zero.
Yes.
I know it's an XCOM type thing, and I looked at it
Yes.
last night, and there was a bunch of cute animals, which I didn't expect, and made me slightly more interested in this.
I don't know how cute they are, but yes, there's a duck and a pig and a fox.
The cutest creatures. Okay, what is this, and what do you think?
It is kind of a another experiment in the turn-based genre. So we've had, Mario and Rabbids, which kind of did its own thing, and we had Phantom Doctrine.
Yeah,
These are
right.
all the games that I end up reviewing for some reason. And so this one kind of feels like it's trying to carve out its own niche as well. It's more exploration focused and more story focused, but basically you're in this apocalyptic world where there are mutant animals.
Not to be confused with Biomutant, which is a spin-off from Avalanche, the studio that did Just Cause 4, and also
course.
Rage 2, our current cover story.
Yeah, good. Good plug-in. But yeah, so instead of the kind of normal structure where you have a home base that's mostly menus and upgrades and kind of sim aspects, and then you go out into procedurally generated maps or whatever, this one is just a series of maps that are linked together by different exits that you are exploring. And it's a little more like each map is open, but it's a more linear kind of experience that's story driven.
And so you're just taking care of all your business, all your simmy techie business on the map itself.
Yeah, there's not a lot of simmy business. You have
Simian business.
You have a squad of 3 people, and you'll get a couple more and you're kind of managing their weapons and stuff. But there's not a lot of depth in, or not. It's not. It's a much condensed scope.
Yeah. Who made this thing?
The Bearded Ladies.
All right.
An indie developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did. So it is very limited in scope. It's like 10 to 15 hours. So, that's much different from the normal turn-based strategy game as well. Is he making kissy faces or what?
Been falling asleep this entire episode, and it's reached peak with Mutant Year Zero.
Yeah. But so the interesting thing is that you kind of explore each map in real time, kind of running around, and the enemies will be out there, and you can choose to engage them or not. If you engage them, that's when it goes to the turn-based, combat. But your real goal is to kind of pick off enemies when they're alone, because if you get into a huge group, you're going to get murdered.
It's like the Animal Kingdom.
And so it's more focused on stealth and kind of figuring out, can I get this guy alone, and then can I kill him in one turn, or, kind of stun him and lock him down and kill him off before I alert anyone else.
Sounds like Hanson's prom night.
Will you please, sir? What
Exactly.
score did you give this?
I gave it a 7.5. And
Okay.
the problem is that the story ends on just the most ridiculous, non-ending cliffhanger that, like, I finished the game and I immediately went online to check if it's an episodic game, because it feels like you're at, like, episode 3 of a Telltale game where they hit you with a cliffhanger, like a plot twist.
Yeah.
Except this one just ends and the credits roll and that's it.
Do you like the animals take off their masks and they're actually people underneath?
Yeah, well, now you spoiled it. So. But yeah, it is interesting. And if you don't care about the story and you just kind of want that, the meat of a turn-based strategy game, then it's probably worth checking out.
Mutant Year Zero. Cork, do you want to go back to sleep? And Jeffem, do you want to go back to work as well?
Yeah.
With Just Cause 4? All right, you guys want to clap out together then?
All right, we're
Jingle bell.
warping.
All right, let's do this.
All right, here we go. Sweet industry talk. We got Imran Khan Skyping in from San Francisco.
Howdy.
News editor, news manager, news king of all media. I don't know. Matt Burtz.
Yes.
Welcome. Let's talk about Epic. But let's not talk about the fun things they've done. Let's not talk about Fortnite. Let's talk business. Video game business 101. What was the big news this week, Imran?
So the big news this week was that Epic is opening their own game store, a digital distribution competitor to Steam.
Very directly aimed at Steam. But what was confusing about it is before the announcement came, you kind of got, before the big earthquake, there were some rumbles going around because Steam suddenly changed exactly how much they're paying out to developers.
Well, to the developers that release multi-million-dollar.
Can you explain how that
projects.
works? It's confusing. Do you want to explain that
So-
first? Oh, go ahead, Imran.
The way it works is that there's certain thresholds of revenue that you will get paid a different fee, or you'll get paid a certain percentage of how much revenue you're making. So if you make over $10 million on Steam, you'll get, instead of the usual 70-30 split, it'll be a 75-25. If the 50 million, it's 80-20. And then after that, it's like it starts getting adjusted a bit more. But it's not like, that's not numbers people will usually hit. If you're Bethesda, maybe, but if you're, Toby Fox, you're never going to hit that.
Yeah, what's weird to me is it seems like they're aiming that at the people that are already leaving to start their own distribution centers.
Yeah.
Bethesda has its own launcher. EA has its own launcher. Ubisoft,
Activision is just cramming more and more into Battle.net.
So it's aimed at them, and the indies are like over here like, hey, wait a minute. We're kind of your number one servicer here right now. Why aren't you doing this for us?
It is so weird. I don't understand who they're courting at that point. And why not just be a little more generous and just make it a more generous split overall and just a blanket policy? It seems like they're going out of their way so far just to have this weird scale thing that I don't even understand.
Then the nuke went off, like the Epic Game Store is 88%, 12%.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and like Tim Sweeney, when we asked him about it, I asked him like, how did you come to this number? And he said, well, running our own kind of storefront with Fortnite, we kind of learned just how much overhead these companies are claiming, and it's like 300 to 400% higher than it probably should be.
Interesting.
And them being former developers, they were like, well, that's not very cool. So
yeah, it turns out Valve's making a killing, and they don't exactly need to. So wait, you talked to Tim Sweeney?
Well, we Q&A'd with them. It wasn't a face-to-face or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else did you learn from that discussion?
Some stuff that they're not doing any DRM on it, which is interesting. They're allowing developers to do their own should they choose to. They are going to build out an achievements type system eventually.
Okay.
They're not there yet. And I think they're using Fortnite as the Trojan horse for this whole thing because the Epic Games launcher, there'll be a new version of it and the Game Store is going to be a component of that.
So if you want to play Fortnite on PC, you will probably have to interact with the Epic Store in some way.
Yeah. Which it's very smart. This is a good time to do that.
It's bigger than Half-Life 2 was, which launched Steam, right? In theory. What do you think of this thing, Imran?
I think it's really interesting. And one of the things I pulled out from Birch's interview was they specifically mentioned that they have a percentage dedicated to customer service, which is like it seems like they're very clearly trying to see the complaints about Steam and see what people are saying, like what consumers and what developers think is bad about that system and trying to address that right out the gate. And that's probably the smartest way that most companies aren't going to be able to compete with Steam. And like it may be like a listing of like Google and Amazon, and Epic is one of the only companies that can do it. And this is the smartest way to do it.
But is it really going to put that much of a dent in Steam? I mean, part of me is like, oh, could be a game changer. But at the same time, like, I don't know, just companies will release their games in one other place. Is it really going to have that big of an impact on the market and Steam in particular?
Well, they're going to push exclusivity with it. They're going to try to bring in some titles that'll bring people to that platform. But the people that are most excited about this, they're not the consumers. The consumers are like, oh, man, another installer.
Yeah,
come on.
Right.
Like they're not excited about that. The developers, if you were following along on Twitter yesterday, they were super stoked.
Just about that revenue split?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is nice to get a little more competition for Valve in there, but just the revenue split alone, it's like, all right, I will put my games on this, but they're also still going to put it on Steam. Like, I wonder what those deals are for the exclusives that Epic's willing to make.
So Epic actually had a really good idea with this, is that if you're using Unreal Engine 4 or 3 or whatever, and any revenue you make on the Epic Store, it completely waives the engine fees. So you don't have to give Epic any more money than you would if the game sold on Steam. So if you're, let's say, Ubisoft and you make an Unreal Engine game, you want to point people to the Epic Store to buy it instead of to Steam, because you'll be making more money off the Epic Store than you would even if you hit the $50 million threshold on Steam.
Right.
And for indies, it's huge because you're not paying, like, you're not getting the 30%, you're not getting the 70%, you're getting the 88%, and you're not paying the royalty.
Yeah. That is, God, it's diabolical. But a part of me feels like there was a lot of hype. What was it, last year? Maybe even earlier this year when like Discord started selling games as well. It was like, oh, hey, could this really disrupt things? And maybe I'm not paying enough attention to it, but it's like, it seems like it just is quietly another option out there. I'm trying to figure out if this is a game changer or just quietly another option. Which way are you leaning, Imran?
I'm leaning towards game changer, but it's not going to be that for a couple of years. It still has to get its feet wet and still has to and find its footing. It has to basically convince developers and consumers at the same time. And consumers aren't going to be convinced yet because everyone wants just that single launcher that they don't have to worry about for anything else. Like GOG never caught up. If anyone wants to jump in at this point, it's a little too crowded a market, but if anyone has a chance, it's Epic.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting to me, like the long run, is what I'm more interested in seeing than the next couple of years. Steam's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But all these kids that are growing, like the middle schoolers and the high schoolers that play Fortnite all the time, if they turn to this as their game store when they become purchasers instead of gift receivers,
Yeah.
that could be the real sea change.
And honestly, for that generation too, I'd imagine all it's really going to take is like some amazing free weekends or just something, right? When they want to boot up Fortnite, just see one splash screen of like, hey, this game's free.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I guess I'll get this one. And then bam, they're hooked in that ecosystem for the rest of their life and there's no way out.
And if it gains a foothold, then there might be a domino effect where we see other platform holders start to reevaluate how much of the cut they keep.
Right, right. I wonder, 1 year from now, do we think Valve will backtrack even further and just try and match it or just go 90-10, just some crazy bold move?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can never tell you what Valve's thinking. A, they're smarter than me by a large margin.
Yeah.
I never can predict what they're doing.
Yeah.
The thing is, Valve will always do the least thing they can do to still keep going. So if they find that they can make the split 88-12, if they can work that, then they'll do that. It's just they don't want to quite yet because they're still in a position of power.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the influencer thing that Epic is doing is actually really cool, and I can see Valve copying that very soon.
What is that?
That is, so it'll have a listing of influencers, or people can sign up to be influencers on the Epic Store, and then work with developers to show their game on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and they will get a copy of percentage of the revenue designed by the developers, and Epic will pay the first 5% for 24 months.
What I think that's interesting about this is like the FCC is going to get involved at some point because, like that, is it advertorial or is it like editorial?
Right.
That whole dividing line, this makes it even murkier.
Oh, fun. All right. I would like to jump forward 1 year from now just to see what is happening in this marketplace and whether or not, like how many games I've bought out of the Epic launcher because, yeah, maybe they'll just pack it full of exclusives. Maybe we'll find out at the Game Awards. Maybe we'll talk about it more, but interesting times. All right. We're going to move on to emails, but you guys can't come. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Ooh.
Here we go. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here, but we shook everything else up. Good God, it's chaos out here. We have Serial Vasquez out of the womb. Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
Go back in the womb. And we have Leo Vader.
Whoa!
Yeah, out of the booth. Here we go. And Jill, the intern, in the booth. Hello, Jill. Thank you for switching. Very kind of you. Okay, podcast at GameInformer.com. The inbox to be in. send whatever you want to podcast at GameInformer.com. Preferably questions, feedback, words of wisdom.
Just a picture of yourself and say, hey, I'm chilling in the inbox.
Slide into our DMs.
Someone sent this lovely thing, and it doesn't work well for the audio podcast. It made me want to cry. It's just like this picture of this cute kid, like looking up at a camera, and then the subject line just said, listening to the GI show. And like there's nothing else. It's like a picture of like this kid that apparently this parent was forcing to listen to the GI show.
Allegedly, this parent was showing his child our podcast.
And the kid was like holding on or like next to like the Destiny Forsaken issue of Game Informer. It was so sweet. It was so sweet.
So
Sounds like a fake gamer.
Yeah, it turns out Destiny is for babies.
yeah.
Podcast at GameInformer.com. We're going to read our emails that we like and then choose our absolute favorite and then put a pin in where they're from. And this time, Leo, I'm not going to forget to put a close-up of the map in the video version, which I forgot the last 2 times.
I forgot it in memory of you.
Wait, do you do that every week?
I try to, but no. I've done it like twice. Okay, here we go. First emails from, oh, God. There's 4 words here, Leo. You try and guess what the name is and where they're from.
Enzo from Ilford, UK.
Says, cheers. Is Red Dead Redemption 2 the most divisive game to ever get such overwhelmingly positive reviews?
Is that it?
Well, there's more, but let's start with that.
And internally, here at Game Informer, I think Breath of the Wild was much more divisive.
I absolutely think so.
To this day, continues to be divisive. Jeffem yells at me every time I say a nice thing about Breath of the Wild.
And he's like one of the warmer ones. There's cold hate in the office for Breath of the Wild.
Whereas the worst thing about Red Dead is mostly indifference in the office.
I don't think anyone actively hates it.
I think Reeves might dislike it. But I do think maybe listeners have more of a negative impression just because I feel like a baby for belly aching so much about that game because I love that game now so much.
Yeah.
And for, for weeks on the podcast just being like, is it fun? I don't know. It's just like, I regret being such a dumbass. Like, yeah, it took a while to get into the groove, but now looking back on it, it's like, yeah, that's just the learning period. Like, stop talking into a microphone when you don't know what you think about the game yet, other than, I don't think I like it.
Yeah, I should have warned you about that. It was a slow first few hours for me, too.
Yeah, but even like, I think it was maybe until like chapter 3 or 4 before I was just like mainlining story missions. And I was like, that's right, the Rockstar mission groove. I'm in it. I feel it. I love it. I need it.
Well, I feel like I'm probably a little like on the fence about it, but I am in prime dumbass territory right now.
Yes.
Where I feel like I am at the low point and I'm slowly climbing back up where now I'm seeing some interesting stuff.
Your camp has just moved to dumbass territory.
Yeah.
In chapter 2.
Yeah, and eventually was colonized into South Dakota.
It really does get better as you go, for sure.
Yeah, but let's not talk about Red Dead so much. But what about just like, are there other things? Breath of the Wild. I'm trying to think about anything else. Maybe like Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, that was a weird year. It was that versus Shadow of War. Right?
Shadow of Mordor?
Shadow of Mordor. Yeah, that was one where one camp actively hated the other camp. But going
also
back,
that's actually how the bullpens got separated. Everyone
that's right.
I'll always remember the Mass Effect 3 versus XCOM year. That was a rough one.
We chose poorly.
Yeah,
actually, there's a lot of defenders of Mass Effect 3 out there, and I'm one of them, I guess.
I like Mass Effect 3.
I still think XCOM deserved it that year.
Yeah.
The Skyrim as best RPG, I don't know if it's divisive because everybody I've talked to disagrees with it.
That's a great point. Enzo also says, honestly though, one person at the GameStop Expo this year, one person, this lovely person came through, and they were like, oh my God, you guys did it. Thank you so much for giving Skyrim Best RPG of the Year. And Joe and Andy were there.
All time.
Oh, I'm sorry, of all time. And Joe and Andy were there, and they high-fived each other and kissed and said, we did it, we did it.
The other
Paid plant.
The other thing I've noticed in this segment is whether it's divisive or divisive.
Oh, that's pretty, yeah, you're right, that is divisive.
I like divisive.
How are reviews assigned, and does the reviews editor take into account whether a reviewer has a positive or negative history with a series or genre? That is interesting. That's a Joe Juba question, but lightly, I think just the idea of, like, why are all these reviews so positive? Like, yeah, we didn't assign the review to someone who hates Rockstar games. It tends to be like, if you like a series, we want to give the review to somebody the most informed, and the way you get the most informed is by playing a lot of those games.
Which you wouldn't do if you didn't like them.
So it's kind of
familiarity is important for sure,
and it breeds contempt. Thank you, Enzo. Wonderful email. Matt has This is why I love podcastinggameinformer.com.
Favorite inbox.
Number one inbox for this type of stuff. I've never thought of this, but it's a great point. Hi, Ben. Hello. So I love collecting action figures of my favorite video game characters. The Big Daddy from BioShock, Isaac from Dead Rising, Kratos from God of War.
The boobs from Dead Island.
I typically just type the character into Amazon and bada boom. He writes, bada I have a plastic representation to adorn on my shelves. What can I say? I'm a collector of human souls. I'm the devil. I'm sorry.
It's weird how I found
fanfic email. So Matt also says, after finishing Red Dead 2, I have a desire to own Arthur Morgan. And I will own him. Truly one of the all-time best video game characters I've ever played. I agree. I've come to find that Rockstar simply doesn't do action figures. I see people make their own online, but I don't want that janky crap. I want the officially licensed Tacitus Kilgore, for God's sake. Where's my Arthur and John 2-pack? What gives? Does Rockstar just not need the money?
Real quick, this is like an assignment for you, Leo. You can do this.
Okay.
I want someone to put together a highlight reel of every fake name that Arthur Morgan comes up with during the course of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
There's so many. Tacitus Kilgore is
even the
very
subtle,
good.
like Mr. M.
Yeah.
Honestly, Leo, and I think you can do this. I want it expanded from that. I want like the video just talking about the use of code names and the importance of names in Red Dead Redemption 2 in general. I think it is a fascinating topic that's all over the place.
I also want that cutscene of Dutch being like, all right, I'm going to call you Mr. M during this bank heist, and you just make sure you respond. Like, I want that pre-planned conversation because it's very natural when they go into a bank robbery.
Right. And he's like, and then you're Mr. Pink. And he's like, why do I have to be Mr. Pink?
I don't want a tip.
Right. Anyways, great writing from Rockstar this time. Pablo, actually, that reminds me.
Yes.
Sadie in Red Dead Redemption 2, she says multiple times in gunfights, she goes, I'm gonna kill every last one of ya! And it's like, oh, that's just Pulp Fiction. But she even does like the exact Pulp Fiction delivery.
That's where Pulp Fiction got it from her.
Yep, that's true. They went back in the history books and found Sadie. Anyways, Red Dead is good. Pablo A. Castillo from Edinburgh, Texas says, "Hey, Cranston and Hugh." What?
Wait. Did we answer the question about the action figures?
We talked about Pulp Fiction. What does Matt want? No, it is an interesting point. I don't know why they don't. I would love a little Arthur Morgan. I agree.
Yeah.
Or just
Sitting on my shoulder all day?
the dark side Arthur Morgan and the light side Arthur Morgan.
Yeah, the wolf and the elk.
Yeah. Maybe Lego should get on it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it would be really fun to see. I don't know why they don't.
Yeah, just kind of all their characters are just like human people wearing clothing.
You know
like
what's
they're not really distinct, I don't think.
But you know what's the huge tell here about how maybe sensitive Rockstar is with licensing this stuff out? Are there Red Dead Funko Pops? There's a Funko Pop of my fucking grandpa at this point, but I don't think there's any Rockstar Funko Pops.
He's very offended you haven't bought it, though, by the way.
Well, look, those things are just ugly, frankly.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
I've never seen them.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's not do any research and assume. Pablo A. Castillo says, "Hey, Cranston and Hugh." All right, back to that. With 2018 coming to a close and so many top lists to look forward to, I got to thinking about everyone's favorite cowboy simulator. Being able to play through the life and times of Arthur Morgan is one of the best role-playing experiences I've ever had in a game. This leads me to my question. Fun question. Is Red Dead Redemption 2 a role-playing game?
No.
That's what Matt Bird says, right?
Matt Bird screamed when he saw this question in the inbox.
There's stats.
Look, progression, yeah, not so much. Definitions, I found myself just being like, yeah, pretty much moving on, but that's less fun.
Yeah.
Are we going with yes or no? Let's keep it ironclad.
No, I wouldn't. If we were for RPG award or like awards, genre awards,
Sure.
I wouldn't put Red Dead in the RPG column.
I know, but at a certain point, you got to zoom out a little bit, and just talk about
There's
like
progression. There's choice. Too.
I know, but just the names of it. Like, what's a better role-playing experience than going through Arthur Morgan's
That's
experience?
I feel like a little too literal, though. Like, if someone said, "Hey, I'm looking for a good RPG to play," I wouldn't recommend Red Dead. That's sort of where
course
I
not.
land.
Of
that's
course not.
That's sort of where
But I
land
like
now.
zooming out and just getting dumb again with it. Like,
Okay.
people saying, I want a good adventure. And you think, adventure game. I wouldn't recommend, Day the Tentacle or something. Like, that's a puzzle game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going on an adventure, that's a journey.
RPG they need a different name for it. It's a role playing game. That's every game. It's every game.
Right.
Genres are dumb.
They're very silly.
You're leveling up stats like your heart and your
horse.
stamina. And
I guess
stuff,
there are
your
those
horse.
things on the side of the screen that I didn't really pay attention to throughout the entire game. Yeah.
Well, maybe if you'd been paying attention to the upgrades that you were getting for Deadeye, you wouldn't have killed that poor woman trying to survive. Whose husband died.
Right.
Up in the
I
Northeast.
cut off a side quest accidentally early by being in Deadeye and trying to shoot an effing wolf. And then Arthur Morgan's like, here we go. And just took a shot at the wolf and went right through the lady's skull. It's like, all right, side quest over, I guess. Like,
And you didn't reload?
No. I stick with my choices. Deal with those
As bubbling as they may be.
Yeah.
I like Arthur being like, all right.
She seemed like a good woman.
Guess I won't see how that thread
Did the wolf
ends.
survive?
We'll bring you more of this eye contact done. Oh, yeah. Then, actually, the weird thing is, I
Dude,
did
Sling Blade or Arthur Morgan?
What's the
Where are you
difference? I then did the rest of the mission with the wolf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Really, I taught him how to hunt.
He stood up on 2 feet and said, "I'll help you."
Oh, hell, this wolf. Okay, anyway, sorry.
You gotta work on your Morgan, dude.
I'd stand by that Morgan. Can you do a better one?
Not on the spot, but I can.
Serial, can you do it?
I don't think I played enough to.
Leo.
That dang wolf's come to life.
You say so.
I know nothing about no wolves on 2 feet.
Granny, big eyes you have.
Sit back, relax, and watch us impersonate Arthur Morgan for the next half hour.
Okay, Adam from Lexington, Kentucky says, in my mind, Leo, take a big swig. In my mind, Detroit Become Human is without a doubt the best game of the year. If not the entire console generation.
I thought you were going to say continent for some reason.
Yep.
David Cage.
Wait a minute, what are you doing here? Rip off the mask of this email name. Okay, he sums up this year this way. You guys tell me where Adam has went wrong in his life. God of War, good game, but a failed attempt at a God of War game. I don't know what you're talking about.
Failure.
Spider-Man, fun, but we've played Spider-Man a dozen times. I haven't. Red Dead Redemption 2, shinier, original Red Dead Redemption with more cutscenes and story and less six shooting. Well, there's a lot of six shooting.
It's more everything.
Yeah, all these games are basically variations on the original. God of War in a lame way, Spidey in a good way, Red Dead Redemption 2 in a more is better way. Detroit Become Human is the best game I've played in years. From the moment I started playing to the moment I finished, I was engaged and entertained. He just loves the story. He loves everything about this. This is insane.
It's a brand new piece of garbage, fresh from the dump.
Obviously, when we're trying to figure out top 50 games of the year without spoiling our list, Detroit is a real... Talking about
Bad
divisive.
one to put on that list.
All right. It's divisive, right? Kyle, where do you stand on this one?
I don't want to see it on the list. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's we were talking about it earlier. It's not because there's like Heavy Rain. I think is interesting. Beyond is just like absolutely awful. And
Whoa. It's not awful. There's a
Beyond?
solid game that's just insane.
Okay,
I don't think it's awful
I feel like
at all.
the thing that I'm getting at is with Detroit, it's not like so good that it like reinvigorated everyone's love for Quantic, but it's also not like laughably bad,
right?
Where everyone like found a reason to really hate it. It's just like going down the middle, and like for that reason, it's just like it just is very forgettable and. At least
But
that's my
there's defenders.
perspective
A
on
lot
it.
of people really liked it, and it sold well.
I'm glad
They're not here. I don't.
The people in the office like it for sure,
Yeah.
though.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because plenty of games on that list are just 2 or 3 people played it and they liked it, and nobody else has strong feelings about it or played
Right,
it, so it
right.
gets on the list because they really believe in it.
Yeah.
But Become Human, a few people in this office really like, but also everybody else really hates. But does that mean it doesn't belong on the list?
Well,
'Cause
here's
just as many people liked it.
I'll call this hack out. Someone in the office who might have been on earlier talking about Mutant Schmear Zero. Like he's like, there's no way it should go on the list. It's like, have you played it? He's like, no, but I know David Cage's rating. I know what that game is. And it's like, well, look, you can take a good guess at what it is, but I think it's important to play the game that you're trying to
It's better
debate
than
should
that.
not be on the
It's
list.
better than that. Just like
Yes.
automatic dismiss.
It
But
is, yeah.
But I think
Well, I
there's-
have played it, and it's bad.
I
I can tell you this right now. I beat that game,
Yeah.
and I hate it.
But for
There.
Yeah, but still, Kyle has a point.
well, the thing is like there's a game. That game is all about its writing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it's. That's what's important to it. But I feel like there's a lot of games who had much better writing this year. You know, who could take that place.
Wander Song in particular. Anyways, Mario from Katy, Texas says, hey, GI Crew, first time, long time. Love the show, especially when they go super long. Long time indeed.
Let's just make it go long right now.
It feels like a lifetime. My question, the crossover shared universe mania seems to be winding down a bit with the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming to a major finale. It'll never end. The DC movies giving up in continuity, basically, and the Dark Universe dead on arrival. But I was wondering why it hasn't really shown up in the video game world. Gameplay-wise, why is it that only Nintendo or Persona games are allowed to have their characters show up in games in completely disparate genres? What series would you like to see in a different genre, and why doesn't it happen more? Personally, I'd love to see more stuff in the Mass Effect universe.
I'd like to see a crossover between some of the more iconic Disney characters and, I don't know, some bullcrap Final Fantasy characters.
Oh, I'm listening.
Interesting
So,
idea.
all right, let's get in an elevator, and I'll pitch it to you.
Is it like a 15-hour elevator ride?
Yeah. Where do you go to the elevator?
Where do you go to the
Giggly today. Little giggly boy.
Well, people have been funny. This morning, I have to share Jeff Cork's joke.
Yeah.
It was just myself and Kyle and Jeff Cork, and I said, Jeff Cork, this morning I had an epiphany, and he said, breakfast epiphanies. That's the funniest thing you can say on
And then
planet
he just
Earth.
turned around and looked at his computer, frowning, as you and I just laughed hysterically for like 15 minutes. Breakfast epiphanies.
Anyways, I think we answered Katie's question. Mario from Katie. What were we saying? Oh yeah, the elevator.
Crossovers.
Yeah. Where do you elevator? So I think one of the reasons it doesn't happen more often is, development studios, when they get stuck in a rut, like tech-wise and everything, not that a rut's a bad thing necessarily, it's tough to shift to a completely different genre. That takes some time to reboot, change things. You have to get a different skill set of developers, change your tech around, all that stuff. That's why it's tough for, like, I think a BioWare to go from, like, all right, this is going to be a Mass Effect RPG, then the next one's going to be the Mass Effect fighting game, then this and this and this. That takes too much time, and people need some paychecks.
That's funny to you, Leo, that people need to survive.
But maybe there should just be more handing off of franchises in general to be like, hey, ArcSys, take our game and make a fighting game out of it.
Yeah, I think the most common thing is you usually see guest characters in like fighting games and stuff, and sometimes you get like I think Final Fantasy had a thing where they had some weird crossover
Assassin's Creed Festival.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy 15.
So like that's usually where it happens. It's just like this thing from this other game is in this other game.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft having skins from their different games and their other games.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover that way. They straight up have Rainbow Six Siege characters in Wildlands now in the multiplayer.
Weird. And also Rayman's in Brawlhalla. Like, it's just spreading out in so many unexpected ways. Ooh. Shivers.
I think like Street Fighter has a bunch of crossover content now where it's like, hey, Resident Evil characters in Street Fighter, or like costumes for characters.
I heard Street Fighter is actually crossing over with Interest these days, which is a bold crossover for that series. Anyways, Nick from Duluth, Minnesota says he likes the magazine. Thank you. I grew up playing many 80s, 90s systems, but like many people, the Super Nintendo was my standout favorite. I'm 33 years old now with 3 children, but have the desire to
Brag
share.
alert.
I'm old as Jesus was, and have the desire to share my fondest gaming memories with my 8 and 6-year-old children. I've held off a year buying the Super Nintendo Classic because I feared that after a few short months, the SNES Classic would simply start collecting dust. Can the Game Informer crew give me a brief 1 year later review of the SNES Classic? Do you still use it to this day? Is it now simply a nostalgic desk paperweight? What do you think?
Every morning, I boot that thing up.
You thank God for Super Mario World or whatever.
Yep.
I haven't played in a while, but I played through Donkey Kong Country in its entirety on it, and like dabbled in a bunch of other games. And I keep it like in my kids' like playroom, and I go play it every now and then. I like it as just like a standalone time capsule of like a bunch of games.
I think your brother plays it all the time.
Yeah. Well, you would know better than I would, I guess. But I bought him one because he likes that generation of gaming almost exclusively.
Yeah, we live together for people confused about that comment. I haven't bought one yet. I bought one for a friend. I was planning on taking it back at some point. I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I was like, oh, maybe over Christmas break, I'll bring my Super Nintendo Classic home and finally finish Link to the Past. Like, start it with some old buddies and just like commit to like this weekend we're playing through all of Link to the Past. Which sounds like a good idea in theory, but there's no actual way. So you'd still recommend it, but it is going to be a short burst love affair. You should just admit that, totally. But it is worth getting still.
It weirdly made me totally uninterested in the PlayStation Classic.
Yeah,
like I was like, oh, I like those consoles. I like the idea, but the Super Nintendo was going to be my favorite version of that, and I got it, and I played it a bit, but yeah, I mean it's nice to have. I still like it, but it's collecting a little bit.
On 3 separate occasions, I've thought about playing Secret of Mana.
Wow.
That's more than anybody could ever ask for.
Yeah, I know. God, I spent $80 for that.
Sir Hill's Tech Reviews.
Dominic Sachaki, friend of the show. Dominic from Chicago here with a pretty general question. I think it's a pretty question. I like this one too. What is one piece of media you grew up with that you're reasonably sure no one else you know, or at least on staff, did? For example, I never really had comics growing up, but I did read Peter David's novelization of the Ang Lee Hulk movie when I was about 9 and absolutely loved it. No one else I've ever talked to has read it, let alone knew of its existence. Yep, that's true. It's probably part of why I love the movie more than most people do. I like that movie, but I only saw it once in theaters, and I want to watch it again at some point. But okay, piece of media that you grew up with. And I think this question's more fun if it's bigger. You know, because it's like I can point to like a singular little game, like Pandora's Box on PC. No one else played it probably, so therefore I win. You know, but I like it when it's like a bigger
also,
thing.
it doesn't have to be a contest.
It does. Every email answer is a competition, Leo. So I like, you know what I mean, like an ongoing thing that you liked. Do you lose if anybody else has experienced this?
I guess.
Sure. My obscure pick was going to be the Animaniacs game pack.
What is this?
For Macintosh computer. It was a collection of 5 Animaniacs games that I played obsessively.
Wow.
Looking up it for research and nostalgia, there was this game called Belchinator 2, where you were Wacko and you went around this spooky lab setting, and you belched on robots and destroyed them.
That's funny.
And I remember it being very creepy, a very creepy vibe with the sound effects. And going back and watching videos of it, there's goofy music playing the entire time.
You're just the biggest coward of a child?
Maybe. Or else I had some bug where it was playing the creepy title music instead of the goofy in-game music.
No, my money's on just dumb kid.
Yeah, probably.
That's good. 5-pack. You a big Animaniacs fan? You excited about it coming back?
I was a kid.
Okay. I understand.
I watch The Sopranos now.
The sequel to the Animaniacs.
Good shows as such. I'm going to put my money on Dinotopia.
That sounds. Is that a book series?
Yeah. It's very cool. Like the first one in particular is just like beautifully illustrated, and it's just like they find this alternate society that's been living out in the middle of the ocean, I believe, is what it is. And they've just like been raised and living with dinosaurs for like this entire civilization's existence. So it's just really cool stuff where like there's a whole like profession of like flying pterodactyls, and that's like the cool way to go is like you train to be like a pterodactyl flyer. That's like your job, you know what I mean? And like there's awesome shots where this one captured my imagination as a child, where they built like this harness. It's like this, it's like an island thing. It's just kind of like this weird wooden grass harness or whatever. And then it just has like a big thing coming out the back, like a really tall
thing
coming out the back.
Like a thing.
Yeah. But for the sole purpose that you can use it in the water, and Brachiosaurus can like bite onto it and then just like whip you out into the water. And it's just like a ride. That is the best thing ever. I want a Brachiosaurus to whip me in a harness.
Oh, we learned something about Hanson today.
All right. What do you guys got?
I remember that. I never read any of those, but I remember those covers being really engrossing.
Yeah, the art's great.
Yeah. I watched a lot of, I think it was called Danger Mouse and Count Duckula.
Ooh.
You guys familiar with these? I think it was like a British cartoon show that would air on like PBS, which I watched a lot of PBS growing up. And that's not one I hear anyone be nostalgic about. But Netflix has a new Danger Mouse show. He's like a secret agent mouse.
Okay.
It's like a reboot that they did a couple years ago. So did I win?
Yeah, Serial, are you gonna lose?
I'll probably lose. Yeah. I've read a lot of StarCraft novels. That's the closest I don't have a lot. Like I think a lot of it is like I read the one about Nova. There was a novelization of like one of the campaigns. There was one about the background of Arcturus. I read all those and I regret half of them. But
what was the most interesting detail? Do you remember anything from any of those?
He really hated his dad.
Yeah.
Arcturus Manx.
Oh.
Manx. Mangas.
Yeah, Mangus Khan there. That's good. We all read like Amelia Bedelia, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about Hong Kong Phooey?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
He's like a dog.
That does kung fu.
Yeah, he's like a dog janitor that turns into a karate expert.
And
for
of course,
crime.
the Mega Man X3 password music sounds like the theme song.
Yeah, we were all
Yeah.
thinking
Familiar
that.
with that.
Did you guys all read Redwall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those
Damn.
books.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, wait. I thought I loved those books.
You know, I started
This is
reading,
losing, is us bonding on this.
I started reading Redwall to my kid, and it turns out that those books are like super violent.
Oh, really? Is that why we liked them?
I think so, yeah. And I was
Highly
like,
sexual.
yeah, that really surprised me too. A lot of mouse sex happening in
Yeah.
those books.
Rabbits'
I
only
read a ton
weapon
of
are
those.
their tongues. Anyways, or the Red Green Show, I was going to say. Anyways, Sam from Invergrove Heights, Minnesota says, "Hey, GI, I think there's a portion of your videos that cannot be seen. If you sort on YouTube by newest to oldest and scroll down as far as possible, I think you can only get like 3 years or so. Then if you sort oldest to newest and scroll down as far as possible, you get another 3 years of videos. Since you have 7 years of videos, there's a gap in there that can't be seen through these views.
Until next year.
How do I find these? I like digging through the archive and click watch later to contrast your current production value from some of your old stuff. How dare you? They're all the same. How do you find them? Just search whatever hits that gap. Try and think of games in that area if you want. Like,
And if you know
cover
what
story.
playlist it would be in, I assume you can get all of it that way.
That's true, but like especially my mind immediately went to like cover story stuff. Maybe he is just talking about like replay and whatnot, but for cover story stuff,
Did you not always put that in its own playlist?
like the features interviews playlist, which is a whopper. No, I doubt we put all that super old stuff in there. I bet there's even old cover story stuff that isn't on YouTube. I feel like there's still stuff that slipped through the cracks. Which reminded me, right into podcast@gameformer.com, because Leo and I spend a lot of time on like cover story videos, and I feel like it's not engaging the community. You know what I mean? I wish those videos were more fun or that people cared more about them.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it's like, are we just wasting a lot of time here, just doing interview after interview after interview after interview until our eyes bleed? So please, podcast@gameforward.com with what you want from when we go to a studio to film stuff.
Yeah. What kind of studio-specific things? Like
Yes.
what could only we do that another outlet couldn't
Like-
with our coverage?
Right. What if 20 people just write in, like, I only want studio tours. I crave them. Maybe we should do more.
6 of them throughout the
Give
month.
me the blueprints to every building you visit.
Serial, what do you think we should do more from Cover Story Trips on the video front?
It's hard to know because we can have all these crazy ideas, and it's just a matter of like, will the people we're touring be into them? Because I would always want to do more Top Gear-esque segments when we do silly things, where it's just
Right.
like these one-off kind of creative ideas, but
Yes.
it's just a matter of like, are the people we're interviewing going
Sometimes,
to be into
and
those?
maybe Serial and I know this, it's very recent in our minds, sometimes people are more serious, and it's tough
Yeah.
to like walk into the studio where you don't know anybody and be like, all right, the wacky show's here, and it's like, we're trying to make a game here, sir. You know, like,
Yeah.
we're trying to have a it's very
One thing that
serious
came
interview.
up from like that in recent memory is just walking around people's desks and asking them about the stuff they have on their desks. Of just like,
You like that?
do you think this has influenced you in any way? But like, it'd be hard to make it like an interesting segment, but it's one of those things where I would want to talk to this person about all the like models and figures they have on.
How much do you think about that Goku figure on your desk? Does it influence your sense of game design?
Not at all.
Looking at his muscles, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about the people making the games, depending how they decorate the desk.
Our
And I
one
like
outfit-
studio tours.
Our one outlet for goofiness in those cover trips is the rapid fire questions.
Right.
And, we could probably split that a bit more between pure entertainment and pure information.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And even I feel bad recently about going on a Cover Story trip and not having one just like fun video. It could be rapid fire, it could be something else, but like coming back home when it's just like pure, sometimes on the drier side interviews, like I wish we found somebody funny in that studio to put on camera, And also what I think a lot about, this is getting a little bit too in the weeds, but just like hauling a lot of equipment, sometimes all the way across the world, and then just like setting up takes forever, as Leo knows, lighting all that stuff. It's just like, what do people really care? If I always just had a camera with just a nice shotgun mic, just handheld, like maybe there'd be a fun appeal about going on a Cover Story trip just with that weird raw look and just cut it down from there.
You should just do a cover story on Snapchat.
Again, is that what kids are into? Kids?
Kids, please.
Kids, right in.
Kids, we need you. Kids! Anyways, Nathaniel from Yosemite Lakes Park, California. P.S. That's California, not Canada. I got it, Nathaniel. Says, hey, I've been playing catch-up with the podcast and recently listened to the Nintendo Labo podcast. Quite the catch-up. Does Ben and Kyle still play with it? Labo, that is. No. I finished all that stuff, and then I put it in my closet, and I have not seen it since.
Is it still built?
Yeah, I didn't disassemble it or anything.
Did it get crushed?
I don't think so.
I also don't have it. Like I just did the Office ones and I built them and then I put them in the vault. So
Oh, interesting.
so I don't have the option to continue to play with them.
Would you ever go back and play that open world driving game, like that latest one that I feel like less people talked about?
Yeah, that's the one, I was actually going to bring that up. That's the one that I feel like I would like to spend more time with. You know, that it seemed the most interesting. Like if you have any interest in Labo at all, that's the one to get. The
vehicle
third one,
kit.
the vehicle kit. And that is the one that I would go back and explore some more for sure.
Yeah. Lastly, Nathaniel says, I haven't heard many truth or dare emails. I have one. Truth. Tell us how you feel about Brian Shea.
Oh, we're doing both?
I guess.
Truth and a dare.
Yeah.
What's the dare?
We'll find
Brian
out.
Shea is a very nice man.
Love him.
Dare. I dare you to tell us how you really feel about Brian Shea.
Oh, okay.
I think Brian Shea is very nice,
Yeah.
and I give him a lot of crap. And I also feel like he gets too much crap, and then it's
I do
not fair
too.
to him for how nice he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he didn't review Sonic games, we would have to.
It's a very
Gotta stop making fun of him for
Absolutely.
liking Sonic.
And you know what? We should all be friendlier in the office. And I feel like he goes around and tries to talk to people a lot. And it's like, why is he trying to talk? I don't know. But it's like, that's the point of an office if you're not going around talking to people.
More people
right?
should talk
Yeah.
to people.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the
He's
other
more
day.
social
like,
than the rest of us, for sure.
I don't think I've had a conversation with Elise in the office in 6 months. It's crazy. You realize that, like, oh, yeah, I don't really talk to people on that far side of the bullpen in the Game Informer office too often.
We're too busy. We should do less work. Just hang out,
Yeah.
right?
Would leaving earlier help?
Shut up, Leo. Rad Kulseth from St. Paul, Minnesota. Rad Kulseth. Is this an anagram? Jill, in the booth, you want to just Google Rad Kulseth as an anagram?
With 2 Ds.
Yeah, 2 Ds on Rad. Hello, Game Informer crew. My son and I listen to your podcast every morning as I drive him to school. I'm sorry. It's always something to look forward to in the early morning, so thank you for that. That's very sweet. In your recent discussions about Sakurai, I think you mentioned something along the lines of him saying that he was getting older and affected his views on games, game development. This renewed a discussion between my son and I about how different our experiences with gaming have been because of our ages. We chuckle at our gaming differences due to age and era. He laughs when I tell him that I ran a hotline in 1987, 1988, charging 25 cents to the local town kids who needed help with Legend of Zelda and Metroid. Now he just looks up solutions on YouTube. He talks about going to the arcade to play Rygar. He says it's underrated. And his kid just plays and talks to his friends online. Anyways, here we go. Given the age differences of GI staff, do you have these same discussions? Or does the fact that you work in the industry immunize you from... Oh boy, Red. Okay. Does the fact that you work in the industry immunize you from calcification? I love it. Do any of the older staff members have chestnuts about past gaming that they tell too often? Do the younger staff members get tired of hearing the old guard talk about how tough things used to be? Leo and Suriel is some of the youngest people on staff, maybe the youngest. What do you think about that?
I don't get tired of it.
Yeah, I don't feel like I don't feel it happens enough. I don't feel like, people walk around the office saying like, I remember Super Mario Brothers. Like that's.
But if Shay was like 50, just imagine. No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's also fun in this office too of like hearing old stories of Andy talking about early E3s and whatnot. Like, I think that's a real hoot.
Yeah, it came most to light during the top 300 of all time discussion, where it's just hearing about these games that I don't have nostalgia for personally and looking at them versus the other games on the list and feeling much less love for them than some of the
like
older
everyone
guard.
being like, oh, Adventure, of course, it's amazing. Then you look at a screenshot and I don't know what this is. I'm confident it sucks, but I can't poo-poo it.
I played Adventure when I was a little kid, and even then I knew it sucked.
It was one of the games in the Animaniacs pack.
I used to really be more in that direction of like, these new games are, mediocre. Nothing can hold up to like Link to the Past, But like, it was actually Cork, and to hear him talk about like modern games. I remember we had a discussion once like years ago of like, hey, what should we do like the best console generation discussion? And we're like, it's Super Nintendo, it's PlayStation.
Right,
Cork was like, it's the current one.
Yeah.
It is this one. This is the best one. And him saying that, I was like, yeah, I think he's right, actually. Like, it's always going to be the current generation, honestly, will be the best versions of games,
Right.
Because they have everything that came before it to feed into it.
Well,
what about the old days, though?
Those were good.
Hey.
I used to be younger and happier more often.
Right. Back when we had energy. I like when old people talk about, the energy of the youth. Oh, that energy.
My back didn't hurt all day.
No. Also, Quirk, it reminds me, it kind of ties into this, like the time that he was just flabbergasted about, like, people aren't nostalgic about the N64. It's like, what? Like, that is everything about my childhood. Of course they are. Big John from Orlando. Big John says, hey, Andy and crew. Just kidding, Ben. Welcome back. Thank you. Andy mentioned something last week that caught my ear when talking about progression in video games. He said that he can grind like no one's business. He wasn't talking about video games. He was talking about on the dance floor, I believe.
Yeah.
It made me reminiscent of when my brother and I leveled up characters to 99 in Final Fantasy Tactics before unlocking the second red dot battle scene on the world map. Although the joke was on us, enemies and random encounters level up with you. That's funny. Anyway, what is one time you recall grinding perhaps too much to get past a certain boss or simply obliterate the game? Very fun.
So it's explicitly grinding to outlevel a boss?
No, just some time that you grinded. Ground? You grinded too much.
Too much.
Grunded.
That you went too far. You saw the face of God.
I don't have a lot of patience for grinding generally.
Me neither.
But Castlevania Dawn of Souls? Or
Dawn of Sorrow.
Yeah, that one, I had to get, because you collect souls, is why I call it Dawn of Souls. And like, but enemies only drop them periodically.
They drop them randomly.
So like one of the harder ones to get. I remember playing for hours, just leaving the room, coming back, killing, leaving the room, coming back, killing, leaving the room, coming. And it was like 2 hours I did that, and I regret it to this day. But I got all the souls in that game.
All right, not bad.
Yeah, I remember doing a lot of those side quests in Final Fantasy X to get some of those like legendary weapons, and some of them are just ridiculously obscure. Like the one where you have to dodge lightning like 100 times in a row or something.
Right.
I remember those not being worth it, because by the time you're done with all of those, you've basically out-leveled the game already.
Yeah, and the end boss, I didn't do all of those, and still that end boss is just stupid easy in 10 from what I remember.
Yeah,
but I'm very good.
I threw 10,000 coins at it, and it did however much damage, because I think Riku has an ability where you can throw money at people and it does damage. So
right, and he hated coins.
That's right.
But what's more sinful than money?
The things we do for money.
Okay.
Whoa.
End boss was sin.
Recently in Red Dead Online, there's a grinding method that my friend showed me where you get extra XP for killing somebody with special bullets, different rarer ammos that you can craft and stuff. And you get extra experience points for executions, close-up kills with those guns. And in the last mission of the story in Red Dead Online, you have armor, and you get a bunch of free special ammo. So me and my friend were just running that mission over and over again, doing executions on everybody because you can survive longer with the armor. And we did it for like an hour, and it felt pretty stupid. I was like, should I be doing this? But then I finished it, and I was 3 levels higher, and I had a bunch of new stuff, and I said, wow.
Wow, you felt good. I haven't dove into Red Dead Online yet. But that sounds terrible. The idea of adding grinding and slower progression to Red Dead, that just sounds miserable and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I hated it for the first 2 days because it seemed like it was a bunch of grinding. Yeah. And there's so many things are walled off behind rank, but if you're in it for the adventure of it, I'm going to get the boys together. Let's go up and hunt in the mountains. Yeah. Let's go do this, hunt these targets, split up, track these guys individually. The missions are super fun when they work.
When they work?
When they work. Most of the time, the stranger missions do not work, and we have to reload the
I listened to the podcast last week. I still don't have a sense of how much of a mess this thing is. Scale of 1 to 10, how messy is Red Dead Online right now?
10 being most messy?
Yes.
6.
Okay. There we go. Brendan in Atlanta says, hey, GI crew. Speaking of last week's podcast, Brendan in Atlanta sounds familiar. Hey, GI crew, as we barrel forward into the end of the year, I feel like a new category is in need for Game of the Year discussions. Ben has often brought up something I've done forever and listened to podcast while playing a game. That said, what is the podcast Game of the Year in 2018? Mine is hands down Fallout 76, as there's no reason to ever stop listening, as there's nothing to listen to.
Oh, can I guess what yours is?
This was an email from last week.
I was there.
I was screaming because Andrew Reiner, God love him, he said the sentence out loud, there isn't a podcast that's better than any game's soundtrack.
I tried to
won't listen to
that.
That was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I agree with you.
Okay.
And I said as much.
Also, you don't have
Give me some credit.
You don't have to mute the game. You can listen to somebody talk and hear music at the same time, people. Hello? Reiner, are you out there?
He's just not listening to podcasts, so he's not.
Hi.
Yeah. So what was your game guess?
I want to guess yours.
Okay.
But I have to remember which number it is.
11?
Dragon Quest 11?
Dragon Quest 11 is my number one podcast game of the year. Pause it during story moments, but there is a lot of battling in that game, a lot of running around. Listen to podcast. That is the only game this year where I completely drained my podcast queue. I was scraping the bottom of the barrel, and that's when I went over to Hot Ones on YouTube and then watched everything there. But yes, that's my number one. Number 2, Jurassic World Evolution. Also a great podcast game. Number 3, Forza Horizon 4. Very, very good podcast game. What do you guys got?
I think Destiny 2 is probably still my number 1. Just because when Forsaken came out, even after I beat the campaign, I had to do it on an alt character. And then I almost thought about doing it again. So I just went through the entire campaign and there's a bunch of quests you have to do before you get into the end game. So I just podcasted through all of that. And it made it more fun.
Yeah. Leo?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, obviously pause it for the story, but I had so much fun just going from blip to blip, filling out every outpost, and you can totally listen to podcasts while you do that.
Nice. Do you, when you guys are gaming, do you prefer a certain type of podcast, or is it just whatever?
It's just whatever's on my queue.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
It's whatever,
man.
Just did it a lot in Red Dead as well as I'm playing it, just because there's so long periods of time.
That's controversial.
Well, I pause it when there's stuff going on, but it's I don't know if this is a good idea, but I've basically started ignoring all the stranger stuff. Because I can only be robbed by some random guy so many times.
That's probably fair.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
But between that, it doesn't seem like all that much happens on your way to certain objectives that I've seen. But all the big stuff is on your map of hey, here's this random mission that's popped up on your map. I'll pause it for those, but it's for the most, it's 80-90% of the time you're just writing. And
I feel I'm podcast fan number 1 while gaming. Red Dead is almost like Shadow of the Colossus in my mind of that atmosphere is so important. I didn't do it.
It just didn't work for me because people shout at you so much as you're riding around. Because
Right,
you think
right.
it would work. You're like, oh, I'll do cinematic mode.
Hey, pause that podcast!
Yeah, exactly.
Take your headphones out.
I got a problem!
You guys ever have headphones in and then have an earbud under the headphones to listen to podcasts?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I
Okay, I
had
don't
to do
feel so
it
stupid
while
about that anymore.
waiting for raids in Destiny. I did that quite a lot.
My answer, by the way, is Beat Saber.
A joke?
Yeah, that's a joke.
I love
As a sign of all good jokes.
Thank you, Leo.
James from Vancouver, British Columbia, that's in Canada, says, hey, Game Informers, has the nickname God Howard gone to his damn head? If you're on the management team at Bethesda, how would you help Bethesda recover from the tailspin they seem to find themselves in now?
I would do
Tailspins.
I would do all the
Tailspins,
business good. I would just be better at business.
Yeah.
Well, hold
and
on.
I don't have to qualify that.
What about doing it bad?
I would avoid doing that. I would
you
not
make-
do it bad. I would
Okay.
do it good.
What kind of decisions would you make? Like the right ones?
I would when given a choice, I would make the right one.
Okay.
Quick detour, because I desperately want to get back to James's point here, but have you noticed how many characters in Red Dead say the phrase bad business? It is a weird recurring line in Red Dead 2 that we're like, bad business, bad business.
Have you found the guy that is taking pictures of animals?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You should find him.
Okay.
Might be too late now.
Is he in the bad business?
He's in bad. No, he actually. Spoiler alert. He talks about God's country a lot.
Oh, really? Oh, that's in one of the trailers. I think people
Yeah.
like kept sending that to us. Tailspin, a bit much from one really rocky game, but yeah, it's a mess. I would, all right, if I was God Howard's boss, which
Start shipping out those canvas bags first and foremost.
right, people really care about canvas, and I totally get it. It is BS what they
Absolutely.
did.
Absolutely.
But
I know I'm being dismissive,
I just find
but
it funny
yeah.
that people are screaming so much about the merits of vinyl versus canvas. Like, oh, yeah, the video game industry is weird. All right, this is.
It's
this
like
is
the
it.
plagiarism thing from earlier this year where people are just excited because there's one right side to be on here.
Yes.
It's very easy to take a stance on
I
this.
think those nylon bags are better, and they shouldn't compensate people.
Divisive bag strategy. All right, honestly, I know it's way too late because Todd Howard, Mr. God himself, was already like, every game from here on out is in our engine. We'll never shake the engine. Forsooth. Yeah.
4 score and 7 Fallouts ago.
Yes, and then the little curtains closed in front of him, and everybody got back to work.
Yeah.
But I know it's way too late for Star Trap, Star Void, Star Link, Star Breeze,
Field.
Starfield. Thank you, Star Tropics. I know it's way too late for Starfield, but at the same time, I would just be like, if they had not started yet, I would have said, hold the phone. Hey, Mr. ZeniMax boss or whatever. Was it like Donald Trump's brother's on the board or whatever it is, or something weird like that? Wonder Woman or whoever's on the board. It's connected. Trust me, if you know your history with ZeniMax. It really is. But just be like, hey, we're going to need an extra 2 years because we're building a new engine, or we're working with Unreal. I hear the Epic Store is very friendly these days. Just get ready. I understand those games are tough. I understand you're used to that engine. I know it's tough to simulate and keep track of where all those items are in those worlds, and that's what they love that engine for, but you gotta shed it. You gotta let that crap go. And this is the time to do it.
The way to fix it is to send out a survey to all the employees. Do you think we should make a new engine or not? And everybody who says no is fired immediately.
Yeah. Bags and engines. That's what us community gamers know about. So
Bags
come
and
on.
engines.
We're
Bethesda.
halfway there.
So at E3, do you think there'll be a lot of self-deprecating Fallout 76 jokes from?
They're going to be
downstate?
so funny.
Is it going to be too soon? You think to joke about that?
I think they'll make some joke about it.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys liked it last year. Also,
Fallout 77.
Leo, I was going to say that exact thing. I could see them doing.
Laugh included.
Oh yeah, all your best jokes, Leo. I was going to make them too.
No, but I was gonna make it as a sincere point. Like, you remember how Marvel Heroes, they rebranded themselves Marvel Heroes 2015 or whatever to get a new review rating on Steam. Technically, I could
Right.
see their big Final Fantasy 14 Reborn style relaunching thing. If they do that for Fallout 76, call it Fallout 77.
Fallout 76 colon 77.
Sure, whatever you want,
Yeah.
man. We'll make it work. Okay, next email. Okay, here's a thinker.
All
This
right.
is Levi. And he says, hi, I'm Levi from Westfield, Indiana, and I got a beef with you. He says, quote, call me out. Please clip out this little audio clip and play it back to us. Send it to us at the end of the year 2018. Quote, there is no way in hell 2018 is going to top 2017 in terms of game releases. End quote, Ben Hansen from the December 14th, 2017 episode of the Game Informer Show podcast.
We don't have the audio clip, but it probably sounded something like that.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close. A little more aggressive, and I probably made a couple misspeaks.
Just a few little misspeaks.
I'm sorry for talking.
Mr. Me speaks.
Anyways, he says God of War, Monster Hunter World. I don't know what I'm talking about. Monster Hunter World, Spider-Man, Red Dead 2, Smash, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Into the Breach. Do you feel dumb yet? 2017 was pretty good, but is 2018 eclipsing it? Maybe it's because I don't have a Switch, but to me, it seems like 2018 wins. Also, for some reason, this old podcast popped up on my feed. Oh, that's weird. P.S. My family fishes in Minnesota every year at Lake Wabana, and on the way there lies a gas station called God's Country. Oh, that's sweet. That's very cute. Okay, the biggie. 2018 versus 2017. That seemed unthinkable to me back then. I was so naive.
Yeah.
It's like a little baby. Now,
Podcast for babies.
it's tough. It's tough because Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
Can we
is...
list some 2017?
Yeah, let's get a refresher.
Okay, so
Heat
2017.
signature.
Yes,
Yeah,
Breath
I
of the
mean,
Wild.
The one marquee title of 2017. Heat
Yeah.
signature.
PUBG.
Yep.
Yeah.
Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Okay.
I remember it was on my list.
That came out that year, yeah.
Yeah, what else we got?
Arms.
Shut up. What do we got?
Wolfenstein.
Mario Odyssey.
Yes.
New Colossus.
New Colossus. I'm trying to think of what were some of the ones that people
Night in the
were
Woods.
competing.
Yes.
Night in the Woods is good. With Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
one. Mass Effect Andromeda.
Persona 5.
Persona 5?
Oh,
The
yeah.
finishable Persona 5.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
it's not what I heard. Yes.
Yeah,
though
for
that-
me, I think 2018's been better.
I think it is
I would
too.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough because
the Switch holds a very special place in my heart. So I like having a really good Zelda and a really good Mario in the same year. Is important to me.
yeah, I
And
feel like
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
even though the peaks maybe of 2017 of PUBG and Zelda are so high for me, I feel like the rest of that list dropped off in a significant way. Whereas just thinking a little bit about 2018's list, it's like barely a drop off. I think like maybe the first two are definitely the peak. God of War and Red Dead, and then after that, like so many great games that come out this year. There's none that are like I don't know if I even want it on my list. Like the more I think about it, the more I realize I'm gonna have to cut games that I absolutely adore because
Yeah.
there's so many solid as hell games.
There was a drought, though. I feel like there was a middle 5 months of this year where nothing came out. At least that I was interested in.
Jurassic World Evolution.
Oh.
But yeah, no,
Never
I
mind.
guess I could see that.
Oh, I forgot I was interested in that, right?
What? I mean, Red Dead's the big one for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because God of
And
War didn't
Hitman
really
2.
do much for you.
No.
Right,
But
yeah.
plenty of other stuff. Hitman 2, Assassin's Creed, Yakuza 6.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this year a lot.
Yeah,
good
overall,
year.
I got to give it to 2018. Cut out this audio clip. Mark my words. There is no way 2019 will ever top 2018 in terms of overall video game quality.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
What do you got? I know everyone's talking about Last of Us Part 2. Frankly, that ending, Last of Us Part PU. And just for a good timestamp, how I can be so wrong in the
Play that
future.
immediately after the spoiled where you say it's the greatest ending of all time.
Just 3 hours of the spoiled of us bawling. Okay, Josh from Kansas City says, howdy informants. With the talk about Smash last week, one thing I was curious about, what's the dumbest embargo you've been held to? I know Nintendo's notorious for those, but was wondering what all came to mind if you had any idea why. Why is an interesting question.
Yeah.
There's a new dumbest one every day, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, check out the new gameplay today for Resident Evil 2. It just came up recently.
Nintendo's notorious though, for sure.
It's a lot of,
Those are-
I think it's a Japanese company thing in particular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, did you had a good example?
Yeah, Imran mentioned this, I think, on Twitter a little while back, where he talked about like the Unity embargo, the Assassin's Creed Unity embargo was noon the day it came out. That where you couldn't post a
Really?
review until
Yeah.
that same day, whereas
Right.
like people had already bought and played it by then,
Oh,
which
God.
is extra stupid.
Well, there was one Shay was talking about recently with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Giovanni, they asked that
Yes.
you not mention him in the review, but
Also
he,
Gary or Blue.
yeah, but
Yeah.
these are characters that first of all it's a remake, so
Yeah.
we know they're in there. But also, like a week or two prior, they'd shown those characters in trailers.
Yes.
like
Like literally, I was making the podcast show for that week, and then Shay came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I saw that image you're using of Blue, like the rival trainer. Like, where'd you get that image?" I was like, "It's from one of their trailers." He's like, "Oh, they told us they couldn't talk about it, but it's, like,
So,
it's just
yeah.
right there. I don't know."
It's so strange.
Don't talk about Gary.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I want to just talk to those people. I want them to explain to me in person why this stuff matters. Like why I blurred every trophy out in that Resident Evil 2 new gameplay today. Like what impact does that have on sales?
It's a great question. It's very easy to write a bullet point line of "Don't talk about this." This isn't really embargo, but one of the weird ones was South Park Stick of Truth on that cover story trip. They're like, you cannot talk about how one of the character classes is Jew because it will be anti-Semitic. Only Cartman can say it because it has to come from him because he's a dumb character, right? But
we're dumb characters.
Right. But it's that weird thing of like, well, we couldn't ever discuss that until the game came out, right? Because then it would be like laughing about the fact that Jew is one of the classes, which isn't the point in their comedy game when they made Jew one of the classes.
That's on you.
Right. It's such a weird dividing line, but that's one that like, all right, Matt and Trey have laid down the law.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's weird.
Weird.
Embargoes are strange.
Yeah, if you had to tiptoe around it that much, maybe not a joke worth including.
Exactly. Yeah. Matt Davies from Australia, the Northern Territory. God's country? You tell me. Leo, will you ever go to Australia?
I would love to.
Do you think on your deathbed you'll say, I went to Australia?
Yeah, somebody will bring me a map and I'll point to all the places.
And then die.
Yep.
And then the last one, you point to heaven.
Realistically, the only reason I would go there is if we did a cover trip.
Right. Team Bondi, make something good.
I never would have gone to Sweden if we hadn't done the Rage 2 cover, and I'm so grateful I got to go.
Isn't it a lovely place?
We're very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. It's true. It's crazy.
Yeah, honestly.
They shouldn't send us. Anyways, Matt Davies from Australia, the Northern Territory, says, hello, Ben. Hello. I was listening to episode 425, one of my favorites, of the GI show, and there's a great discussion about Smash Brothers. Thank you. And Ben, you made a relatable comment about being confused by Ness's appearance in the original game. I feel the exact same way. I had no idea who he was or what game he originated from and concluded this character must be a personification of the NES console. It got me thinking, though. How amazing and creative would it be to have a console represented as a character in Super Smash Bros.? With that in mind, my question is, if all the Nintendo consoles, let's say NES onwards, were included in Smash Bros. As playable characters, what would they be and how would they play and fight?
Okay. So they're personifications, right?
Yes.
Like it wouldn't be a Wii console where you're like using a nunchuck.
It'd be an abstract metaphor, maybe.
Well, could it be like Pokemon Trainer where they're standing in the background and they're sending all their famous characters after you? Like
that's
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale?
That's the more... No, I like it more the console itself. You know what I mean? Like, the N64 would have, like, way too many arms and just, like, saggy analog sticks, you know?
Yeah. The PS4 has, like, a micro USB whip that never connects with the enemy.
It keeps accidentally ejecting a disc. Yeah. Spits out discs, constantly doing the obnoxious beeps at you.
I want to say there was a PS3 game that was basically about the personifications of the console wars.
What?
Yeah.
I think Heiji Inafune was involved at some point in some way.
Yeah, they couldn't use the actual names, but there was like 3 anime women, each modeled, one after the Xbox, one after the PlayStation.
What is this game called?
Neptunia? Hyperdimension?
Neptunia. Oh, Neptunia. I don't know what you're talking about.
We can pause it. We can look it up. I'm not sure what it's called exactly.
Oh, no, that's fine. That sounds fascinating, though. I love the idea. All right, in Smash, though, what do you guys think? The Wii U would be like, obviously, because you have the gamepad and the console, so that'd be kind of like an Ice Climbers thing.
Yeah.
It's a team up.
And then the Wii would be moving way too much, like the animation would be like a lot of waggling and
fit as a fiddle.
It's just the guy from the screen that plays at the beginning of all Wii games where he's knocking over the plants and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's just that guy.
Oh, that'd be
right.
Totally
he knocks over the plant, then he points at you. You're next, buddy.
I would love that actually.
The Xbox 360 turns into a brick like Kirby.
That's good.
It just red rings as it falls down.
And one of the alternate things it could turn into is just a console wrapped in a towel.
Oh my God.
His side piece, he throws the Microsoft blades at you.
Right. PlayStation has to fight upside down to be more efficient. Yeah, PlayStation 1.
PlayStation 3 would be like a super heavy character. Like the original model of the PlayStation 3 was like way too big and heavy.
Right.
The Dreamcast has 1 year to fight before it's canceled.
It's got like a health bar that's
it's like a DLC
down.
character that gets removed after 1 year.
Yeah. PS2 could fight horizontally or vertically. I don't know exactly how that works, but
like
you
a
know.
Zelda
You have to change
sheet.
mode. He basically shifts modes. Yeah, basically.
Oh, like a transformer? Yeah, hell yeah, that's perfect.
The Xbox has like an enormous Duke controller that it can throw out, and it's like it's a heavy object on the screen that you can
American design sensibilities.
And then the Philips CDI would just spit out like character trophy style, just those like awful versions of Mario and Link. And
I never
Zelda.
chose the Philips CDI in that character select. I don't know why.
I didn't even know it was a real console. I thought it was just like a.
Hey,
When are they gonna add that Toon Link to Smash?
That would be an alternate costume.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
There's been enough time. I feel like they can joke about it now. Like they joke about the Virtual Boy now.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
people joke about like JFK dying now. Like you can talk about that.
Yeah, that was sad.
The Zapruder, I barely knew her.
Did you guys see Zapruder's latest film? It wasn't as good. So that's the second time I made that joke. I made that to you on the script. Brady Easter, because we talk a lot about JFK.
Yeah.
Brady Easter from Edmond, Oklahoma says, "Hey Ben Hansen," and the insert clever pun here. No. So he likes the podcast and he really liked the Thanksgiving episode with the 25 jokes or whatever.
Me too.
You read the emails last week. Did anybody else like that episode? Did anybody?
No, single one.
I saw there were 2 comments on YouTube that made me laugh. Both vague, but the same. Different people. They both said, "Next year, don't invite the unfunny guy." But they didn't say who they were talking about. Like nothing will break your brain more than like, "Oh, is it me?" Anyways, so
I like the one on the Red Dead Spoiled where it's like, get that guy in brown out of here. Nobody's wearing brown. That was
he's colorblind.
He's talking about
on the
Arthur
YouTube
Morgan.
I liked in that spoiled discussion, everyone's like, those bald Fs need to shut up. Like normally I just see that about Joe, but now it was myself as well because of my hair. So that's fun. Anyways, Brady has 25 jokes that he wrote to honor the year 2018. If any of these suck, we'll cut them because I haven't read this yet. All right, number 1. I'll read it here. We'll go around the horn.
Okay.
I'm thankful for all the detail Rockstar put in Red Dead Redemption 2. Otherwise, how else would I have been in an in-depth conversation about horse testicles when my non-gamer boss walked up to my desk at work?
Uh-oh. That is all we talk about in Red Dead Online. I'm thankful for how beautiful the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 is. So beautiful, in fact, that we can be distracted from the unethical working conditions at Rockstar and feel fine about giving them millions of dollars as punishment for it.
Not bad, Brady. Not bad.
All right, let's see.
Number 3.
I'm thankful Ubisoft included sailing in Assassin's Creed again, a franchise built on stealthy assassinations. I mean, there's no other Ubisoft sailing combat game coming out soon, so better needlessly cram it in there, right?
Wait, these are just snarky and mean towards the game industry. Is that what
I don't think he's thankful for that.
I'm thankful we're all still talking about loot boxes because you can't just not buy them and then be done with it.
Yeah. Sarcasm.
How many more of these we got?
Too many. Tell you what, let's cut. Let's just cut and find the best one.
Hey, this one's actually pretty good, I think.
Okay, take it away, Kyle. The best joke.
I'm thankful that Ben refers to Leo as Leo in the booth. Otherwise, how would we know what Leo he's talking to? Now, if we could only get him to start referring to Joe in the chair, Jeff in the other chair, and Cyril in that other chair, then we'd really have a podcast going.
That's funny. Thank you, Brady. Wonderful, wonderful jokes. Thank you for rating.
Thank you,
We
Brady.
Appreciate it. We love you, Brady.
We loved every single one of them.
Yeah, and we're not being sarcastic. Like some people. What do you guys like for email of the week?
I like childhood media,
Yeah.
obscure media. It was a fun competition.
That is true. It is good.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Let's see. I like the Red Dead 2 divisive. Divisive. I like media a lot.
I like
Smash
the-
Brothers console. I like.
That one's
good.
fun. I think I like the divisive Red Dead 2 one, actually.
Yeah,
I like the
I like that
conversation.
one, and I like the comparison of 2018. Someone calling us out on a statement we made.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is good. All right. That's got to be it, right?
That's gotta be it.
He did exactly what we
gotta
wanted.
be it.
Levi from Westfield, Indiana, sent in this wonderful email, and we'll honor Westfield, Indiana. God's country. Just the best. I love Westfield, Indiana. Also, I was thinking about, this map's getting pretty full. For the audio listeners, it's overflowing with giant pins and stuff. We should probably have email of the year.
Oh,
Coming
only
up,
picked
right?
from the emails of the week?
Yes.
Do you keep track
Wow.
of those?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be fun. Anyways, thank you so much. Podcastinginfo.com if you want to write in the future. We'll answer whatever you want. Tell us something fun. Make the show better. For now, we have an interview with Kris from Cappy talking about the long development of Below and why you should be very excited about that game and why you should maybe clear up your calendar in the near future for a certain game called Below. So here's Kris. Kris Piotrowski, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you.
In person, in the studio, you sound fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
It's the complete opposite of last week's interview, so I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really nice to be here. It's my first time in the city, in this cold city.
I don't know. I mean, just say it's beautiful and
it's
leave
beautiful.
the cold part out.
No, I mean I live in Canada, so that's not necessarily. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, this is Minneapolis for people who aren't familiar. But did you do anything fun last night? You got into town last night?
I got in late and checked into my hotel, and then went to the only Irish pub that was still serving food to get some food in my belly before I went to sleep.
Okay.
And I grabbed a burger, and then somebody from this lovely town bought me a shot.
What?
And hooked me up with a cigarette and welcomed me to the city, and then told me to have a good night. And I was like, this is nice.
Good
this
job,
is a nice
Minneapolis.
place. Yeah,
All right,
Minneapolis
I'm so happy.
Totally welcomed me with an open heart.
And then we welcomed you into the Game Informer office this morning, and you came in, and you saw our game vault.
Yeah.
And you said, number one question, do you guys have Metal Warriors? Which really, there's no way to get quicker to my heart than asking about Metal Warriors on Super Nintendo, that awesome old Konami game.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games. I've been hunting for it for a long time, and every time I found it once in a New York game shop, like one of those like little retro shops. And it was $175. And I was like, I'm going to get it. And I was like, I'm going to think about it. Then I came back the next day because I decided to get it, and it was sold. It was gone. And then I haven't been able to find it since. So, yeah.
Why is the actual cartridge important to you? Not that I'm saying there's other ways to get an old Super Nintendo game, but
I grew up with Super Nintendo, and so for me, and I used to have that game too. So it's more like trying to find my old collection again. But I also just, I don't know, I'm like when it comes to certain games, I like to have. I like to find them and get them. Like I know you can play it on emulator and stuff like that, but
you're trying to rebuild your childhood. You're trying to start over again.
There's certain artifacts that are important, and Metal Warriors is one of them. It's one of my favorite games of that generation, and has a lot of awesome. Like it has like a cool 2-player mode. It's just a great game.
It has everything.
Also,
need.
the other thing about Metal Warriors that I really love, and this might actually be related. You can exit out of your little robot like in a Blaster Master kind of thing. And for a little moments in the game, you are playing a tiny little character. And I just thought of that connection right now, but that has a little bit of like maybe my love for that game and that tiny little character in Blaster Master and Metal Warriors maybe had something to do with it underneath the hood.
That might be a stretch, but you're talking about...
it might be a stretch too.
But it's a hell of a segue. We're talking about Below, and so that is the game where it's like a Zelda-style game-ish, and you star as a tiny little character on the screen.
Yeah.
And was that your idea of starting out like, hey, let's just have a beautiful dungeon with just a microscopic character?
Yeah, that was the very beginning of the idea. That was one of the first things that we tested out, and I think like for me when HD TVs first came out, and I saw games made by Pixel Junk, or like the Pixel Junk series, from Q Games. Games like Pixel Junk Eden, Pixel Junk Shooter, those games were using the HD sort of aesthetic in a different way. It was like they were using the Xbox's technology and the new screen to create these like really beautiful small scale feeling like 2D games that really kind of took advantage of the crispness of that screen. And so when I saw that, and also they announced at some point, they kind of like half announced Pixel Junk Dungeons. I don't know if you remember.
No, I don't remember that one.
It was like before Pixel Junk Shooter came out. There was some stuff that was released that they might be working on something called Pixel Junk Dungeons. And then so I immediately was like, what's that? And then I started imagining this game, and Below kind of stemmed from that, where I was like, what does Pixel Junk Dungeons look like, and what is it? And then I was just like, it must be this. And it kind of became the beginning of Below.
So Dungeons never came out. So
Dungeons never came out. I think it became Shooter, Pixel Junk Shooter. That's my assumption, but I have no.
Have you ever reached out to Q Games to tell them like, hey, look at Below? It's kind of inspired by the one name you guys.
I talked with Dylan Cuthbert once. I think at like I don't know, either E3 or GDC, one of those things. I met him and talked with him and let him know that was a major inspiration for the game. Small scale HD aesthetics, like trying to fit a whole little dungeon on a single screen was the origin point of that idea.
And now I'm not leading anywhere with this question, but I do think it's interesting that it's like, hey, with the unveiling of HD TVs, we thought of Below. And now we're at a point where, hey, 4K TVs are coming out, and now Below is coming out the door.
Well, I mean, I didn't quite think of the game at the moment that HD TV came out. It's just like the possibility of a game with like using a sharp resolution to create little small details on a big screen evolved over time. But that is true. I mean, the game has been in development for so long that one of the few benefits of working on a game for a long time is that new television technology can be invented.
Oh, okay, all right.
And for us, for our game, it was kind of like it was a little kind of happy accident where we certainly didn't plan the game for 4K. But the small scale art style and aesthetic, when we finally ported it over to 4K, it was almost like suddenly, it was like putting on your glasses. It was like, whoa, this art style is really great, because all the characters' legs are like little pegs, and in 4K you can see them, and all the little pieces of grass, are sharp enough to shave your face with. Like every little detail became super high res.
And you think you could even shrink the character smaller?
Yeah,
at
exactly.
That point.
So it's like it almost like made the art style even stronger, because now you have even more so, you have a lot of little super sharp details.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. It's a kind of unique thing about the game. It really kind of it takes advantage of all that space in a way, and all that resolution in a way that I think other games don't really do. I mean, most games are a different perspective, different scale. So it just kind of feels a little bit different. It's like your whole screen is a little aquarium or a little terrarium diorama that's moving around and crawling with life.
So at this point, podcast is coming out on Thursday. We need to be a little bit cagey. The game is coming out shockingly soon. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Astoundingly soon.
Terrifyingly soon. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Why is it?
What are other words I can describe?
I think you got it.
Yeah, terrifyingly soon. Yeah.
Why is it terrifying?
Oh, just I think just for me personally, working on something for so long, it almost doesn't matter what state the game is in at this. I would be, I'm getting put through sort of an emotional ringer, just because if you work on a game for quite a long time, it does sort of end up seeping into your bones, and it becomes a little bit more than just like a project. It's like this problem I'm dealing with for 6 years of my life, and so then now the idea that like after all this time of working on this project, struggling with it, iterating on it, the concept that it's going to be out of my hands into the hands of other humans really freaks me out. And I think that's pretty common. I think a lot of people who work on any sort of artistic endeavors, whether it's film or writing or anything, anytime you get to the point where you're going to let your thing go out into the world is scary. And the more time and the more effort that you put into it, the more the stakes are raised emotionally.
And this is the longest you've ever worked on anything?
Yeah, this is the longest I've ever worked on a game. This is also the most sort of, personally, I have the most personal attachment to this game. And so, yeah, for me, it's sort of like, it's just, it's a hard thing to process.
I get it. Is it
sometime very soon? I'm not working on this game, and it kind of freaks me out. Yeah.
There'll be ports.
Yeah, I think there'll be patches too. I think because it's I think the studio is anticipating. We're launching a game that is a roguelike and has procedural elements and all those kinds of things. So when because it has those kinds of systems in it, that inevitably sort of lends itself to post-launch balancing and things like that. That comes from the players. Once you throw a ton of players at the game, things are revealed. That inevitably we're going to have to do a little bit of pruning after we plant the seed.
So what is it about launching it? Is it just kind of a bummer to see everything boil down to like, all right, now here's the Metacritic score for Below? Or are you just scared of negative feedback? Or is it just like this rawness when you watch Twitch streams, you just are going to feel like they're beating up your kid?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all very, very scary. Yeah, I mean, even if it's like reviews are scary, players' responses are scary.
The world is scary.
The world right now is scary. The internet is particularly scary.
What's it? Okay,
even like when it comes to just the video game space, I think fans are known these days to have strong reactions to certain things. So, sometimes people get devoured online for releasing a game that people don't like or something.
How overwhelming has the response been in the development of this game? Have you gotten a lot of people harassing you guys about like, where is Below? You promised
not
this
at all,
Xbox game years ago.
I mean, we certainly have a little bit of that through Twitter and stuff like that. Just on our Facebook, we monthly get some people who are like, where is this? Why aren't you talking about it? Or even just being like, some people are like a little bit angry or whatever. But we haven't really had too much of a negative backlash. Like we've worked with Microsoft on this game, and they've been very supportive, and they've never put any pressure on me or the team to do anything other than finish the game. And our fans, we did announce that we were kind of taking the game out of the spotlight and we're spending more time on it. And our fans have been generally supportive. It hasn't, like, for us, it hasn't been a negative thing yet. I mean, obviously, like, people have been waiting for a long time, and that kind of wears the fan base out a little bit. But generally, our fans have been like, take your time, make a cool thing.
So why did you guys pull it out of the spotlight? What did that afford the game? Because I think from the average person's perspective, they'll look at the game from back then and today and be like, I don't think it looks too drastically different. It's not like you guys nuked everything as far as we can tell. So what was the decision behind that?
Sorry. The main thing was that we knew that the game needed more time. We made a fundamental sort of mistake right at the beginning, which was that we announced the game early.
Yeah.
And that's just, we're certainly not the first studio to mess up in that way. But we had an amazing opportunity for Microsoft to show the game on the stage at E3. And so we said yes, because we thought we had something cool at that time. And
yeah.
And then immediately after that, it became clear the game was bigger and more complex, and it was going to take us a bit of time. So, if I announced the game 2 years ago, for example, or even like this year, that would have been totally fine. People would be like, "Whoa, what's this? That's great! It's cool." Cappy has been releasing games throughout this project. We over the course of the project, we worked on Super Time Force. We worked on Don't Starve Shipwrecked. We worked on OKKO Let's Play Heroes.
I imagine Don't Starve must have been good research for you guys as well, just to kind of help fuel Below in some ways.
Yeah,
right?
it helped. I mean, that experience of working on with Clay on a survival game, that was like in the middle of the project, or even in the middle end of the project. So that experience, I think, like obviously having people in the studio that have worked on something like Don't Starve does help understand certain concepts when it comes to survival games. I think they're two like very, very different games, and Below is not a primarily a survival crafting game. It's primarily like a dungeon crawling exploration game that does have survival and crafting as a support sort of system in the game. So there was a lot less to think about when it comes to that stuff. But even so, there's a complexity to the game that made balancing quite challenging. But yeah, certainly that experience I think helped.
So I think a lot of people even recently have been talking about like, why don't they just announce games early? You hear about movies when it seems like a deal has been signed, or somebody has written the title, the rough title on a script, and people are like, why don't people do that more with games? And I think Below is an interesting example where it wasn't even at that point. You guys had a build up and running, I'd imagine, by the time you actually announced it.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the downside of announcing games that early?
There's a couple things. One is that your game is now on the radar. And now after you announce a game, you're not just kind of like working on it peacefully all alone in your in your apartment or in a studio. And now you're aware that there are people waiting for it and they have opinions about it. And if that time frame expands, like the development just continues for a long time, then inevitably people start to like that pressure that's coming from the outside that only exists because you announced the game, and all those kinds of like negative feelings that come with that. That's really that's the cost of it. And the longer the longer it takes from announcement to launch, all those kinds of issues just sort of get a little bit harder to deal with. But it's really just something that you just threw in your own face, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. So I would really strongly suggest that people who are making games wait until they have it, like they've got it in the bag, and it's coming out in 6 months, and that's a good window to work with. Of course, if you're working with like live development or early access, then it makes sense to just be like, hey, this game's coming out, and it's coming out in this form, and I'm going to build it with you.
Yeah.
But that's not really the kind of thing that we were trying to do with this game.
What's it like to try and maintain enthusiasm on a project over 6 years? I mean,
I have no idea. I wasn't able to do it.
what does it help just to have those other projects roll through? Like, was there a dedicated team on Below the entire time, or was like you and other people just like, we'll put it away for a couple years and come back to it?
The team size kind of fluctuated throughout the project. Obviously, right now, as I'm here talking, there's a team at the studio finishing the game.
Yeah.
So right now the team's a little bit bigger than normal, but the way Cappy at least is structured is that Below is about a 10-person team, and then there's about a 10-person team for another game.
Okay. Unannounced game
with some other roles around that as well. So yeah, we generally have like one team. Like unfortunately, the Below team was primarily just working on that, but there were some people who were working on other things. Like I worked on Super Time Force in the middle of Below.
Yeah.
Some of the programmers from Super Time Force are now helping finish Below. Some of the people who are working on OKKO helped out at different points.
Did you have to have those meetings though? Was like getting the whole studio together and just try and rally enthusiasm again for Below? Of just being like, here's the message again. Here are the things that we should be excited about. I know it's been 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, but God damn it, this is exciting still, right, everybody?
We didn't really have like a. That's a good idea. Maybe I should do that next time. We didn't really have like rah type meetings, but for us we did show the game. For the big kind of boost for us, I find, and I think this is probably true for a lot of development, but anytime we showed the game at PAX, for example, or at Day of the Devs, or I showed the game in Barcelona at an event called Be My Human, and those events are really where that kind of motivation comes back. So if you spend a weekend at PAX showing the game to thousands of people and the reactions are like, oh, this is nice, I like it, then, the people who are there manning the booth can take that back to the studio and say, the reaction was actually this. I know we're all dying right now, but hey, I saw people who aren't working on this game play this game and they like it. And
I've seen it. I've been to the mountain.
Yeah, they get into it and they get sucked into it and they play it. They want to play it for longer. And so those are things that's like, we didn't quite have meetings like you described, but anytime like we were showing the game at any of these kinds of conferences or events, that was always those were those little high points where the people who were at those events come back and tell people, hey, this is good, we should be happy, this is what people said. Relaying the positivity that players have for the game while we're kind of struggling with it came from mostly from those kinds of intervals.
The catch, though, is if you wouldn't have announced the game for 6 years,
that's true,
or 5.5 years, then you wouldn't have that boost of energy. Then just be people in the mines for 5.5 years. Like, well, I hope people like
You're
this.
right.
Oh, God.
That's the flip side of doing it that way as well. Yeah.
Has this been a tough game to develop overall?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been difficult. Conceptually, it's been a difficult game for me. It's been difficult technically and artistically. We've had over the course of this project, we sort of transitioned into 3D, kind of like in the middle of the project.
Oh boy!
So that was a major factor for the kind of expanded schedule. And we also have never worked in 3D. So like previous to Below, we were 100% 2D studio. Every game we've ever made is just delicious 2D pixels. And then even the first trailer, if you take a look at Below's first trailer, it's 100% 2D. Aside from the main character. The main character was always 3D. And that was the beginning of the problem. Because eventually we were like, okay, now let's make this 3D because the lighting looks a little bit better if we don't fake it with normals and weird 2D wizardry. and we just sort of like we're slowly adding more and more 3D into the game. And then we got this kind of like hybrid of 2D and 3D. And if you add it all up, it's like we did not know how to make a 3D game. And
or you just
we learned how to make.
It's just like, that's going to be a whole challenge if we
No,
do
we just like in the middle of it kind of decided to learn how to make a 3D game and make a 3D game. And also for that 3D game to be really weird and unique and do weird stuff in 3D. That it just, all of that combined to quite a difficult project on every front. Like technically super difficult, artistically super difficult, conceptually, thematically difficult.
Also, I don't know anything about game development. Well, barely anything. But it seems to me like the Below is such like an atmospheric, beautiful game. It's such a subtle game.
Thanks.
And the idea of like learning new technology and also harnessing that technology to be subtle and atmospheric. That's a deadly combination.
That is exactly a deadly combination, and that's one of the major things that I could point to as an explanation for the rough ride that we had.
Does it just mean iteration after iteration, or what does it look like on the ground floor for you beating your head against the wall?
Yeah, it's a highly iterative process for us. So every little thing in the game, whether it's from the UI or from the lighting or the fog of war, is something that we worked on for like literally years. The grass, I'm not kidding. It took us a long time. It wasn't the whole development, but we did take a long time to do that.
Good looking grass.
Thanks. It's good to hear after that time. But yeah, most of it's like that's generally the way I work. A lot of our projects, well, it depends. Some projects are more blue sky and sort of like, here's the goal. And, we kind of know the general concepts of the game, but I personally like the idea of letting games sort of grow and sort of evolve and maybe offer possibilities through exploration of the kind of mechanics and stuff like that and technology. And that's sort of how we approached this game. It wasn't a game that was like figured out front to back in a design document. Hey, that's another reason why the game took a long time. It was a very, very much like on your feet sort of like, where do we go from here? What's working? What isn't working? Okay, this is not a path we're following, but we're going to explore more in this direction. Oh, now we've explored in this direction, and now we're not doing this because that didn't work. A lot of that happened. I think that's true in every development. I think certain ideas just don't. They sink instead of swim,
Right.
And that happened to us quite a bit. And whether, sometimes the reason why something didn't work out is the design wasn't sound. Sometimes it was like an issue with actually realizing that and implementing it because of the sort of like friction with just like the difficulty of the setup for our engine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Was it ever close to cancellation in your mind? Was there ever a period where it's like, let's just not finish this?
There's been low points for sure over the project. Yeah. I mean, the game has just taken so long that there's a lot of times where we had to sit in a room and just be like, are we just going to launch this game like right now, or are we going to give ourselves another year to finish it right, or are we just all ready to pack it up and just give up? That's definitely been part of the development. I think that just happens with long projects. There's a point where you're like, why am I still doing this? Like, is there an end?
Look, so how do you hit the end? Like this year, how did you decide, like, all right, it's coming out the door no matter what?
Well, we were close enough. Like this year, we managed to circumnavigate the entire world and get the whole structure of the game in place. That's also one of the reasons why it took a while. The world is pretty. We excavated a pretty deep hole. Unfortunately, we got stuck in that hole for a bit after it. But making the whole game world took quite a long time. So this year we got over. We finally got everything in play. So every area, every enemy. It wasn't done yet. They're still polished and balancing all that kind of stuff. So that's what we've been focusing on now. And so we got to a point where we sort of felt like this, the end was in sight now. And we sort of made a hard decision that we were going to push to finish the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Microsoft help pay for this thing, or financially was it ever a concern how this thing was going to come together?
Or when it comes to us like running a game for this long, that kind of comes from the 2-team format. So we have we made some games that have generated some cash for Cappy.
That's Canadian for cash?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Cash. But yeah, part of it is also like we take on a contract or an opportunity comes in or we want to pursue another game, and so some of the support for the project thankfully came from the other projects that we've made.
Okay.
Whether it's through just putting out a game and having profits or just a good contract.
And so the deal with Microsoft is a handshake of, hey, we'll launch it first and you guys can help promote it a little bit?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some exclusivity stuff that I can't really talk about, but
right.
But yeah, I will just say that they've been very supportive, and they've always they've also always treated the game as like a little special feather in their hat.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm kind of surprised that feather stayed in their hat, because there is a lot of stormy weather coming at it to blow it away.
Batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
I probably asked too many developers this, but has Microsoft ever tried to purchase you guys? It seems like with them going around just buying up every studio they can, was there ever any talk of like, we love Below so much, would you ever want to make it official?
As far as I know, they haven't. Maybe if we released the game 4 years ago, then maybe that's what would have happened.
I see. Okay. That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, they've been very positive. But yeah, we haven't been in that situation.
Okay, sure.
We've generally haven't been really looking at that kind of concept of being bought.
You got enough cash?
I don't think any studio ever has enough cash unless you're like Fortnite or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I mean, that's more than enough cash.
Yeah. Who knows
but I mean, Cappy's okay.
Okay.
We're okay.
That's great to hear. Okay. We love you guys. Okay, so releasing a game is the scary part of the project. When's the sweet spot? When's like peak heaven in game development for you?
I generally really like the beginning of games, and I really like the ending of games.
Oh, the ending. Okay.
Yeah. This one has been extremely rough though, because the ending is just so it's such a charged environment because of the amount of time, and everyone's deflated, and everyone's just sort of on their lap. We're crawling to the finish line. So it's a little bit different, but this time around. But generally, I kind of, the way my brain works and the way I kind of operate, in the way I work the best when it's like the beginning of a project, blue sky, and everyone's happy because it's just the possibilities are endless. This game we're gonna make is amazing.
There's no way it's going to take into the year 2018.
Yeah, totally. Then and then at the end of the project, I usually can click into like a sort of a higher gear and just like rapidly try to solve lots of problems. But then the middle is like a big giant swamp that you fall into, and you're just, nothing's working, everything's ugly, everything's buggy, and I think all games do that. Like you get to a point where it's just like you just have to get through this swamp. Like I think Nathan or other people have described it as sort of like a U shape, right? So you start up here at the beginning, and then you sink into this hole,
Valley of Despair. I think Jake Solomon from Firaxis calls it something like that.
Yeah. And then you climb back out. So unfortunately for Below, because of the length of the project, that hole was the bottom of that U was very long.
Right. The darkest depths.
Yeah. I mean, thematically it makes sense for the game.
I guess it works out that well. Do you feel like you've been in the hole for so long for your next project, not getting into specifics, you just want something completely different? If it's Below 2, are you going to kill yourself?
No.
Thank you.
No, actually, the weird thing is that even though I've worked so long on this project, traditionally Cappy has always worked on new ideas every single time. So that's kind of our hallmark has been, to try to just start from scratch and build a whole new thing, both like aesthetically and conceptually. Like none of our games quite look the same or feel the same or even are in the same genre. I've always been inspired by studios like Treasure, for example.
Yeah.
Like Treasure's kind of like one-offs, beautiful one-offs. And like I mentioned, Q Games has been a big inspiration for me as well. Just like creative, interesting projects, each one with a different, highly developed art style and different kind of themes. So I've always kind of like that. And that's how I've been working, and the studio has been working since we began. But Below is the first time where I've worked on a game where even though it's ground me to a pulp and like I need to go on some kind of sabbatical, the ideas and the aesthetics and the concepts in the games and the sort of the theming is stuff that I would love nothing more than to explore more of. I think this is the one game that I would like to follow up.
Oh, interesting.
So not right away. Like I don't want to go from like finish the game and then be like, all right, guys, we're on Below 2, because I actually think the team would just like either kill me or just be like, no thanks. But at some point, like following that up with a game in that scale of aesthetics, and sort of the other kinds of ideas. Like it takes a long time to figure out Zelda style combat. It takes a long time to figure out little subtle crafting stuff, and it takes a really long time to kind of figure out how a roguelike structure is supposed to work. Like all these things were brand new for us, but now we have that. So if we were to start a game with these ideas, I think the development would be enjoyable and smaller, because you're starting on top of all of this groundwork that took everything to build. Yeah. That being said, though, after this project, I think I'm gonna spend a bit of time focusing on art. I kind of want to take a little bit of a break from leading projects, just in the immediate future. I mean, like next year, I kind of want to sit in a corner and just like experiment with VR, and I kind of want to create little spaces that I can put my head in and take some deep breaths inside.
There's a game coming out called Dreams that might be exactly what you're looking for here, just for creating quick and dirty little VR spaces to just plant your head
Dreams
in. That sounds perfect.
Beautiful. But so I think the answer is I would love to make something like Below, but immediately after there's no way. I need to sort of just take a bit of time to work on different things, different feeling things, and also just to maybe even not even work with a team directly for a bit.
We have to contract out with Konami to make Metal Warriors 2, so...
Yeah. It's funny because the game that I actually want to make for real after this is a game that we, a couple of me and Kenneth Young and Vic and Mike Nguyen, we did a Toronto Game Jam, Toe Jam, like 2 years ago maybe. We prototyped this game called Metal Death, and the concept is basically sort of like a 2D side scroller with a big robot, sort of Dark Soulsian, Metroidvania, super hardcore dark stuff. But that's something I would love to do, and it's totally inspired by Metal Warriors.
Everything always goes back to Metal Warriors. You can't get away from it.
Kenneth and I are both huge fans of that game, and when we were thinking about like what do we want to do for this game jam, we're just like, let's try to make this little game where you can like, it has this weird Dark Soulsian concept to it, but it's very much aesthetically like you can pop out your little jetpack.
Oh, and then for the corpse run, are you like running back to get back into the mech again?
You got it. We just gave somebody a great idea.
Well, hey, congratulations on Below. We recorded a video, a new gameplay today, showing it off, and it is still very cool. I feel like it'll be exactly what people want for those late night sessions of just randomly generated for certain aspects of it, but just go through a dungeon, just a cool, artsy, fartsy looking Zelda type game.
Yeah, it was described by a player at PAX as a dreadful Wind Waker. And I was like, yeah, man.
That's beautiful. And you made that. Congratulations, you and the team, guys.
Thanks. Appreciate
Cool. Well, hey, anything else you want to say? Anything from Cappy you want to get off your chest? Any message you want to get out there?
it. Thanks for all the support over the years of this project. It's been a very challenging project for the whole team back at Cappy, and it's finally coming to an end. And I think everybody at the studios is proud of it, and it's a unique beast of a video game, with a very specific flavor. And I don't know. I think kind of excited it's coming out soon.
What are you looking
I
for?
hope you all like it.
What kind of feedback do you want? If people play it and enjoy it, only if they enjoy it, what type of thing do you want them to tweet at you? Do you want them to say like, oh, this little detail is great? Or you just want them to say, you're the best, you're the king?
No, I just want them to like not tweet at me.
Oh, okay. That's the way you show respect.
Yeah, just don't tell me anything. Whether you like it or not, don't talk to me after the
All right,
game
he'll be
launches.
busy in his little VR world, everybody. All right, well, hey, Kris, thank you so much for swinging by, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, I appreciate it too.
And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have an episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.